What's up, everybody? It's your boy X-Rated Strange Music in the building. Check me out on the Bootleg Kev podcast.
Bootleg Kev podcast, man. Special guest in here after begging for him to come on the show for 4 fucking years. It feels like every time I'd see this guy at an event, I'd be like, yo, what the fuck, man? What the fuck, man? Yeah, I got you. Well, he's finally here. X-Rated is here.
Hey, man, I appreciate you. I wanted to come when I was off parole. That was a big deal for me. And also, I wanted to make sure that I had some product lined up. I knew what I was working on. I knew what my mission was, and I still was trying to figure it out. Honestly, I viewed you as you on my list, your goals. So I just was like, man, I'm not ready. And then boom, here we are, and it's organic and it's dope.
First of all, when did you get off probation or parole or whatever you were calling
I got off parole on March 1st. I'm shooting a $500,000 video with N9ne. We stopped to eat lunch. And I got my phone checking, because we had our phones to the side. And I got an email while I was holding the phone. I click on it, and it's like my PO like, hey, man, congratulations. You offer life for parole. Because I was on life parole. I wasn't on smoke some weed, and they overcrowded. They don't got nowhere to put you parole.
parole.
I was on life for parole. So when I got out, I was still a lifer.
Okay.
And you're still a lifer during parole. So you run a red light, that cop having a bad morning.
They're going to
You go right back to prison with a life sentence as a lifer, and they'll see you when they want to figure out whether or not you should be released or kept. Yeah, so that was the experience I was having.
Damn.
Yeah, so March 1st, 2022, I got off, and I kind of, turned in my album, had to figure out now I could live where I want to live. Had to figure that out, get situated, get an album out the way that just kind of let me wrap this up real quick. And so this album is kind of more of a deliberate result of those outcomes and being free.
Yo, it's crazy because like when I was growing up as a young kid, I remember discovering you through Brother Lynch. Mm-hmm. So I was Season of the Sickness is like one of my favorite albums ever. Shout out to Brother Lynch. Yeah. Fucking classic album.
Indeed.
I've played it on the podcast for many people. I'm like, you don't understand. There was this guy who used to talk about eating babies when I was a kid, and I believed him. And it used to freak me the fuck out.
Yeah.
I'd be listening to Brother Lynch by playing Resident Evil. Just fucked up childhood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, fucking killing zombies while this dude's talking about fucking killing babies. It was wild. Anyway, shout out to Brother Lynch.
Shout out to Brother Lynch.
He's a legend, yes, pioneer of horrorcore hip hop too. But like I dived into like what you were doing, and then like me and my homie Ramses used to just trip out how this fool was like in prison recording fucking whole albums from the pen, and they were dope as fuck.
Hey.
Over the phone. So you got locked up when you were 17.
I did.
Now you were already signed to Black Market.
Yeah.
As a juvenile. So what was the timeline between you signing your record deal and you going to prison?
Wow. Okay, so I was the first artist ever for Black Market Records. So I end up, me and my homeboy, Young Meek from the Gardens, Big Meek, we met up with Cedric, and then Meek and Cedric came up with a plan. Cedric had Black Market Records in his pocket, in his brain, and Meek had the bread. You know what I mean?
What year is this?
This is 1991.
Okay.
1991. So I already have my Niggas in Black EP out. Me, Lynch, and Six already have the Endangered Species project that kind of became Nigga Deep, I believe. And then we started linking up with Cedric, me and Meek, and that's how we ended up turning in Psychoactive in like December of 91.
And then
January 91.
How much further after that was you catching your case and having to go sit down for
2 months?
2 months.
I was arrested maybe 90 days later. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, it was a wild set of summers.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because we hear about like and how intense the violence is in Sacramento.
Yeah.
Like now.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's, obviously guys like Mozzy are huge coming out of the city. There's a lot of guys, DB About the Bag and Lavish. There's a lot of dope shit coming out of Sac.
T-Nutty.
Yeah.
Sebo.
Sebo, a legend for sure. Fucking independent legend for sure.
Yeah.
But Was it all? Because like obviously for people who don't know, like you went to prison for it was like a gang related homicide, right?
It was, yeah. I was given gang-related homicide, first-degree premeditated murder, and use of a firearm. That's what I got found guilty of.
Like how crazy was the gang scene in Sacramento in the late '80s, early '90s?
It was wild. It was very intense. That the mid '80s, it was just people were representing what they were representing. My neighborhood got founded in the late '70s, early '80s as a result of Compton Crips coming to South Sacramento to sell dope in our neighborhood. Nutty blocks primarily. So the garden block is really a result of our ancestors being the Nutty block, Compton Crips, and some of the Santana blocks. So garden block came from that, among other things. I got a founding father from garden block here with me, Big Dooney, but we ended up seeing where people was just fighting. You know, our neighborhoods is all Bloods and Crips. We in a box and Northerners. We in a box of Franklin Boulevard, Meadowview Road, Florin Road, and Freeport. That's kind of our box that would be the Gardens. A little bit above Franklin, though. Franklin is Franklin. But everything above it is the Gardens. And you got the Meadowview Bloods in that box. You got the 29th Street Crips, 24th Street, 21st Street, who all together are 914 Garden Block Crips. And so in the beginning, in that mid period, it was just a little bit of fighting, because even the Bloods are the homies. You know, Garden Block existed before Meadowview did, Bloods wise. Mm-hmm. Meadowview always existed. Like, I'm from Meadowview. We all from Meadowview. But the Meadowview Bloods kind of got born out of homies beating up people and been getting beat up by people who were technically homies.
Right.
So the violence created, you know, where they started standing on their own 10. They from the Gardens too. They G2. It ain't no hoes out there. They really with the shit. And so somebody get clapped, you know, and that tipped all the dominoes in the South Side. I can't speak for Oak Park or
right.
Del Paso Heights. That ain't my right. But they was with the shit as well. But specifically on the South Side, you know, in the late 80s, we had a homie get, you know, we got one that got smacked, and then now somebody else gets smacked over there, and it just turned into trading bodies.
Crazy.
And that's the season of the sickness was born from that.
Wild. And so you catch that charge at 17?
17, yeah.
So you're a kid, man.
I am a kid, man. Just a baby. Now, looking back on that, I'm very empathetic to that little dude. And everybody that was with me, all of us was babies. We was just some babies, man. Misguided kids.
It's so wild, too, because to think, like, to where we are now, and, like, you know, the YSL trial and how, like, artists are having their lyrics used against them actively. Yeah. They used your album against you in court, right?
Yeah, they used the lyrics to my song, Still Shooting, which has a sample from Ultraviolet Dreams from Cypress Hill in it, you know, so it's dope to be able to talk to Be Real the other day. But, yeah, I had made Psychoactive. Ironically, I'm being executive produced by a Meadowview Blood, who happens to be Sibo's little brother, Big Meek, Miko Ewer, and he's there when I record that song. I recorded Still Shooting at the studio with a Meadowview Blood in December of 1991, and they turn around by the summer of 92 saying this song was about this incident that occurred 90 days afterward. And so they switched the title.
Just so I'm clear, was the guy who lost his life from that set?
He was.
Okay.
Yeah, it actually was a woman.
Oh, a woman. Okay.
A prominent figure in our community, and the mother of people who, you know, there was some disdain involved in it, right?
Got it. Okay.
So her children were not being viewed favorably on our side, and they didn't view us favorably. That was with the shit. You know what I mean? And they was active, and so they take my song and say it's about this incident that it had nothing to do with. They changed the name to The Murder and call it The Murder, even though that was the intro with the Pizza Man thing with me and Brother Lynch on, where we pull up, pretend to be the pizza man, dude open the door, we gun him down. That's The Murder. The song is called Still Shooting. So they changed the name of the song to fit the narrative, quote my lyrics broken up so that it says what they wanted to say.
Out of context.
Out of context. Write those stories for the Sacramento Bee. Tell those stories on ABC, NBC, all of them. And then that gets picked up by the AP. And then hip hop journalism repeated those stories instead of writing their own. Like my home field advantage of hip hop. Like now, someone like you would have dug into that.
Right.
You wouldn't have let that happen to me. You would hope a Vlad wouldn't have let that happen to me. It would have been some people, Elliot Wilson, who would have disagreed with that. Ironically, Elliot could have disagreed with it then, I think, and didn't.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Elliot was doing in 91, to be fair. He might have been an intern or something. I don't know.
Yeah, he might not have had the power in 91 or 92. That's true. But what I do say is that hip hop media did not tell the story themselves. They just repeated the story that originated from conservative news media in Sacramento, which was a Republican-dominated environment at the time. It was an anti-crime environment. It was a different culture. And Sacramento also used me in a sensational way to have a viral story, what we would call a viral story. One of the first times there was something that Sac was on the map for that they could be proud for. Sac always been the little brother in California.
For sure.
And so you had the Dorothea Puentes thing that gave Sac out his beak wet with national entertainment, true crime kind of shit. And I think they got thirsty. And so when my thing happened, they sold that story and used it. It was ratings. It was, it sold papers. And that's what they did. They tore up a 17-year-old child.
That shit's crazy.
Yeah.
And that was also kind of like, I feel like the era of like the demonization of hip hop. Because you got to think between like the 2 Live Crew shit, and NWA was a little before that, and just like there were so many politicians stomping on CDs. And Tipper Gore, and what's the lady from LA?
Dolores Tucker.
Yeah. It was like there was like this real like anti-hip hop agenda, like on really like the left too. Like it was a lot of Democrats.
A lot of it was coming from that. It was both sides.
Both sides were like, fuck this shit.
Yep. FBI on NWA for fuck the police. Tipper Gore and all of them on 2 Live Crew. Here they come with Band in the USA.
Right.
The Ghetto Boys, Jay Prince coming under attack. So they got to make We Can't Be Stopped. Time Warner turning on Ice-T.
Crazy.
It was a lot in this era. That's without talking about Mike Tyson and what he was going through. Without talking about now that entering that stage of Tupac, the demonization of Tupac, and or the selling of his sensational story is kind of what they were doing. And so you had OJ occurring. It was a rough time in this to be a part of the culture at the time.
What was your family like home like life like at home? Obviously, being 17, rapping, being active in the streets. Were your parents around? Like,
so I had earlier. I had my grandmother, Miss Maxine. Tammy Shannon and Florin Road in South Sacramento. My family all in the Gardens. Casa Linda and 24th Street, Nedra Court. And so that period of my life was beautiful up until my grandmother passed. And she kind of was the glue that held the family together. And when she passed away, leadership, who's going to take over? Who's that next person? There wasn't really anybody in position. The people who were in position, like my mom, were in grief. They were grieving.
Right.
And so while they were grieving, I went outside. And so I'm with my big cousins, Artie Barnes, AJ from 24th Street, Gunplay. I'm with my family members. And so, I didn't have a lot of supervision. My father's from Pritchard, Alabama. He met my mama in Sacramento. My uncle went to my Uncle Bodig's house across from Oak Park Community Center back in the day. And so my cousin Jimmy Broadnax lived right across from the Oak Park Community Center. And my mom would always be over there with my aunt, my grandmother's sister. And next door was my father's uncle. And that's how they linked up. And, here I am. But he goes home to Alabama. He was just visiting family. And so I didn't really have a 2-parent home. I probably spent a total of 3 or 4 years with my father out of my entire life.
Damn.
You know what I mean? And that's brutal. It's brutal. And what I learned from him in that period of time definitely it has a lot to do with me being alive. You know what I mean? He didn't teach me a lot with his words, but observing the way he moved. He strapped up, he got he was with the bullshit.
Right.
All of it. He owned his club. He was moving. He had vending machines. He was grinding. I remember I went to Alabama. My pops takes me on a trip to Pensacola. We get some fireworks. I think, it's whatever. And I had a trip with my dad. We go to the
Right.
beach. He meet up with some people. They put the fireworks in the trunk. We drive back, and then I can't use these specific fireworks, right? And then I got the other fireworks and shit, and then I see my pops was busting them bitches down and emptying out all of the fireworks, you know? And he in there cooking and cleaning up and doing his thing. And so my pops said, you know, I went with my pops on a pickup mission. My pops was running, he was doing him. And so it wasn't unusual for me to see him cooking up in there and counting his money and doing his thing and, you know, being on 10 toes, and how he communicated with his brothers, how he communicated with his friends. And so he didn't teach me a lot deliberately, but I saw a lot that later on
You were
it
able
kept
to
me
apply,
alive.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm grateful to my father, may he rest in peace. And I feel like he didn't know what the fuck to do with a child. He didn't know what to do with no baby.
Right.
And, you know, I feel that way with my mother. My mother raised us the way she was raised, and that included teaching us a lot: encyclopedias, dictionaries, puzzles, mind games. She had a lot of that type of stuff in the home, just psychological games you could play to strengthen your perspective. And but she wasn't too much. I needed male leadership in my life. And once we hit a certain age, that was it. You know, back then, 16, I'm running around doing me. Wasn't no discipline at all.
Right.
And so, yeah, I didn't have a lot of support.
Well, I was going to ask you, like, you find out you're going to prison for life
Yeah,
as a kid.
yeah.
That's got to be like your whole entire soul just gets snatched from your body. Like
Not really, man.
how did I'm saying, like, because you somehow turn that into like the perseverance of like having like a semi-successful, like, I mean, very successful rap career.
Thank you.
While being in prison, which
did.
is very, I mean,
Yeah.
like how do you make that transition from being a kid to thinking maybe your life is over, and then you know your music career is just beginning in some sorts, you know?
Yeah, I think you hitting it right on the head, man. I think the thing that kept me from feeling like my life was over, that I lived for the music. Hip hop became everything to me. They couldn't take that. I can write a dope rhyme. I can still be dope. And so that mattered to me, to just be dope. And because I was just focused on that, I had so much material that when these opportunities presented themselves, like the first thing I did was the 24 Deep with Brother Lynch. And Lynch, I was calling Lynch from Juvenile Hall. And he was like, man, I got this song. I want you to record your part. And he did it on his answering machine. So I'm around the corner at the payphone. Right. I got the 40s in the bank. I did that over the phone. And so that kind of, even while I'm facing the death penalty at the time, they're in a fight. Am I being remanded to adult court to be tried, or am I going to juvenile court? Right. I get remanded to adult court, then the fight is death penalty, capital punishment, or indeterminate sentence fight. Get through that, beat the death penalty thing, and then now it's okay. These are your charges, and you get to 31 to life. I know that 25 to life is what I'm dealing with. I'm aware, like that's my maximum outcome. And so even then, even being aware of that, like I technically just survived that. They would have liked to have killed me. If they could have found me guilty and given me the death penalty, they would have. It's just the law and the judge's interpretation of the law. He decided not to allow that to occur because I was 17 years old. But so I technically am also feeling like I just beat death in a way.
So it's like a small victory.
It was a small victory. And I'm not fully capable of dealing with the horror of this shit. Right. You know, Mrs. Harris and what happened in our community, how people were responding to it, how I'm being celebrated on one side for being G, demonized on another side for being evil. Right. You know what I mean? Being hated by rivals who feel like, you know, they had to deal with that. That's just what you do. It's retaliation is a must. That's a part of the game. So I got all of this as a 17-year-old child that I got to deal with when I walk out of my cell, and how am I projecting myself? So you have a mixture of shame, pride, ego, all this stuff active at the same time. And wanting my homeboys, like, okay, the safest place to go as a child was deeper into the place that didn't feel like I did nothing wrong. Didn't feel like there was like it was what it was. So it was a safe place to hang out for a minute until I got old enough to start reconciling, brain development catching up, and I had to start dealing with ugly truths within myself, and that started bleeding into my lyrics because that was the safest place for me to go. I was always honest in my lyrics for a while.
So like early on, you like embraced, like you said, the side where you were like celebrated, I guess.
I did.
Yeah.
Being X-rated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A Garden Block Crip X-rated from 24th Street. That was a badge of, it was like a bulletproof vest for me to put on to protect me from even my own thoughts and my opinions or other outside opinions of me. I just stood on that to not allow none of the ugly stuff to penetrate my spirit. And I focused, so working with Lynch on 24 Deep made me like, damn, maybe I can get some shit done. And so I'm writing like a motherfucker. I transferred to the county jail, and I run into Mac Dre. And Mac Dre and Kyrie had...
What year is this?
Man, I think it was like somewhere in the window of 93, 94.
Okay.
So Mac Dre, Sacramento is the hub for federal crimes. So if you got a federal case, you're gonna get sent to the Sacramento County Jail to go to court because they handle it. So Mac Dre.
So any Fed cases in like Northern California, they would go to jail in Sac.
Yeah, I believe it. Not even just Northern California.
Period.
Either.
I mean, it's the capital too, right? So.
Yeah. So like the Unabomber was housed in the Sacramento County Jail. Like was my neighbor. Going to court for his cases.
Did you ever talk to him?
Talking to him was weird. You know what I mean?
Did you ever
I said hello. You know I'm a dumbass, right? So
did he ever like break down his manifesto to you? Like
no, I didn't get to chop it up with him like that. We was in 400 pods. So.
I would have interviewed that motherfucker. I'd have been like, yo, so what's going on, bro?
Yeah, nowadays I definitely would have wanted to know. Man, what's up with you?
We'd have had an off-the-air podcast.
I reached out to him. I yelled at him and shit. He was in his cell, I was in mine, but he was a very meek dude. And he talk about fame, notoriety, what they call notoriety. Judges used to come and hang out at his door with their clerks and talk to him. And, you know, the dude was allegedly brilliant. You know what I mean?
Right. No, by all accounts, he was a smart guy.
Yeah, he was you can be so smart, you get a little crazy.
100%.
And so he was a very smart motherfucker. And the judges, all of them, they used to do tours and come by and, you know, they look in my cell, here's the rapper X-rated, and they would go around a little bit, and it's the fucking Unabomber. I'll be looking out my door, and it'd just be a pack of people
just
standing
in front of his cell.
In front of his cell, yeah, man.
It's crazy. Anyway, Mac Dre.
So Mac Dre, 93, 94-ish, they had recorded the live from Fresno County Jail over the phone. Him and I believe Kyrie from Young Black Brother. So they had Young Black Brother at the time. And I know he had done some stuff on Mac Mall's stuff too. And so he was like, everybody knew about 24 Deep at the time. So it was like, yo, he gave me the game. This is how we did it. Like, how did you do it? I was like, man, I just recorded it on an answering machine.
Yeah.
He was like, nah, we did the phones and we ran a line into the board and did it directly through that. And I was like, damn. So I took that game and gave it to Cedric and then talked to John Botts from N9ne Studios in Sac. And so they took a phone apart, soldered the wires to a mic plug, plugged it directly into the board. So when I called the phone, it was going straight into the board.
What the fuck?
And then they took another part of the phone apart, soldered the wires and plugged it in so the audio was going straight into that.
So you could hear the beat?
I could on a different phone.
Got it.
So I had to call a phone right here and spit the rhyme.
You're spitting in here while listening to the beat in the other one.
And listening to the beat in the other one, and that's how I recorded Exorcist.
What? We're like... people who were also on the phone, like looking at you like, yo, this fool is fucking rapping? Like,
nah, our county jail was separated. You know, the Crips was on the west side, the Bloods on the east side. I think at the time I was in 300 pod. The pods are separated by severity of crime at the time. So if you child support tickets, you go to 100 pod. If you got a little bit of violence, but nobody had suture stitches, you go to 200 pod. If somebody had suture stitches, dead, funerals, 300 pod. And so I'm in this pod, and I got the homies out here, and I'm doing some shit that I'm in Sacramento. I'm X-rated in Sacramento.
Big deal.
Recording a song. So there's motherfuckers in the day room rooting for this.
Yeah.
The white boys rooting for this. The Mexicans is rooting for this. The niggas is root. This is a victory for the criminals.
Right.
We winning. The police is rooting for this. They done bumped Psychoactive. They done bumped 24 Deep. They done bumped.
Wait, you had cops who were like fucking with you?
Like on some negative shit?
No, on some like they were fans?
Oh, yeah. I'm in Sacramento.
Yeah.
I'm at home.
Yeah.
Imagine they threw one of us in the county. Come on, man. I'm in the county.
You're in there
jail.
Recording. Yeah, I'm doing the whole album right now. Like, leave me alone.
I ain't even got to tell them that.
Yeah.
Because it's the Wild Wild West in the tank. So I'm in the tank doing me, and they can hear it, but also can't legally stop it.
Right.
So when people were like, why did y'all allow him to do it? They like, he's not convicted of a crime. He has the right to use the phone. We don't tell anybody else not to use the phone. So if he commits a crime on the phone, then we'll investigate that crime. But in terms of rapping on the phone, it's not illegal. It's not illegal for him to do that. So their spokesperson is in the Sacramento Bee explaining to people why they didn't stop it. It's because they weren't legally able to stop it. I could use my phone time to do whatever. And in there wasn't a list to sign up. So you could be on the phone for 7 hours if nobody cared.
Right.
You know what I mean? And nobody cared. Nobody could care. That was one of them get your ass whooped over this. I'm recording these songs. The homies is tripping. And they wasn't the only ones. It was a victory for the criminals.
How many projects did you drop that you recorded while incarcerated, just so people have an idea? Oh,
man. So, Exorcist, and we do 640,000 copies of that. You know what I mean? Like in like maybe 6 months. Billboard charts.
Gold while incarcerated.
Gold while incarcerated without a music video. Without a music video. Want to Get High, a certified classic.
Right, back in the day, it was like the video was very important.
Yeah, no music videos and still gold anyway. 6 months. Playboy magazine, all that shit. And so I did Exorcist. I go to the pen. I remember, I think the spokesperson for the prison system, they were asking them before I got there, like, X-Rated just recorded Exorcist in the Sacramento County Jail, and he's on his way to you. He's been convicted. How are you guys planning to stop him from recording music over the phone? And they had all these reasons, and they had the beeps, they put all this shit on the phones. And they are on the call with the blah 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 blah, so that I wouldn't be able to successfully do it. And so I got there, and I was able to get some more, get some equipment in there, spend money again. Cops are fans. The laundry workers are fans. The kitchen workers are fans. I got allies in this bitch.
Right.
The homie been here for 20 years. This nigga done knocked this motherfucker over here that work in the library.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm putting a whole studio on the yard if I want to. I'm doing whatever I want to do. I didn't know that was going to be like that. But I aged into it and lived into it. And so here comes Unforgiven. So you got Exorcist, Unforgiven, Nefarious. And think about the period of time. 96, I dropped Exorcist, Run It Up. I think 97, 98, me and Bo work on Till My Casket Drops. I'm number 3 on Billboard behind Mariah Carey and Brian McKnight. Boom, here comes Unforgiven. I'm 14 on the Heat Seekers chart. Billboard, boom. That's 1999, May 11th, 99. February, boom, I'm back on Billboard charts with the Nefarious album. And then November, boom, I'm back on Billboard charts, 100,000 copies first week on Vengeance Is Mine. Boom, February, I'm back with Initiation. I'm back up on the Billboard charts again. I'm moving, and all that's happening while I was incarcerated. So I think it's
so you had like a studio-ish setup.
Oh yeah, repeatedly.
Like, what'd you have?
I had all kind of shit. I started off with just a mini disc recorder. Then I would try and get something that had multiple tracks on it eventually. And then I started finding out about apps. And so I started getting phones and downloading apps that gave me 4 tracks and shit, and plugging in and recording on little lav mics and shit like that.
What I mean?
Talk show microphones, and sending that shit home and letting them clean it up.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man. I had a DAP before. I had a mini disc recorder. I had an R7.
And they didn't care that you had all that in your cell?
Hell yeah, they cared. But the problem was...
Isn't that contraband?
It is contraband, but this is the problem. If you think about... And I had a lot of issues because of this. But if you look at the rules, the CCR Title 15, and Here Comes X-Rated in 1996, who the fuck recorded a song in a cell before?
Right.
Whoever had a cell phone in their cell before.
Right.
Right? So there's no rule against this shit.
Because it's almost like new technology.
It doesn't exist. That's making
no
a
point
rule.
of reference.
Yeah, these are the rules related to UFOs and how they have to fly. It's like, where are they?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where we gonna make a rule for some shit that we don't even know if it exists or not. So I'm getting caught. You niggas is telling and speculating, you know what I mean? Like, if you a rapper on the yard, you don't want to be Jay-Z.
Right.
You don't want to be Tupac. You want to be X-rated. You want to. I'm the one who's done it. So they look. I set a standard, and so people was talking about me a lot. So my cell get hit. I get busted with a phone. I get busted with a recorder. That the cop thinks I got him. You know, I remember one time I had a lighter in my cell. The cop finds the lighter. Throws that away with all the garbage. He wrote it on the slip of stuff though that he took from me, but he threw it away. The homies, now everybody know they get the trash is gone. The police then went and did what they had to do. He looks up the rules and tries to figure out what to write me up for. And 3006C contraband, possession of contraband was all he could come up with, which was like 2 weeks loss of yard. Just boys being bad boys, just slap on the wrist and send me back to the yard. But when they caught me, they thought they had me. They thought, we're going to put him under the prison. This is a shoe turn. We got him. And it was a 3-time. I would have got in more trouble if he wrote me up for that lighter. That lighter was a 3-year shoe term. He could have sent me to Corcoran. He could have sent me to Pelican Bay Shoe if he wrote me up for that lighter, because it's a caustic substance. It's an explosive device, according to the rules.
Set some shit on fire,
Yeah, so he threw away the weapon and wrote me up for some shit that didn't exist. And just, they were mad. They were big mad. And so I get hit with the Son of Sam lawsuit. Me, OJ, Charles Manson, they hit us all with the Son of Sam lawsuit.
What is that, just so people don't know?
So the Son of Sam lawsuit is to prevent an inmate from profiting from the notoriety they received as a result of their crime. I think it started in New York with the Son of Sam, who I guess was getting paid to do interviews, people writing books. He became a millionaire as a result.
That's what I just saw. Whack 100 was talking about that with the Keefe D thing, because I think he was trying to help get Keefe D out, and they were trying to bring the Son of Sam thing up, and he's like, well, they haven't convicted him yet, so technically, he's not guilty of anything. So.
Yeah, California struck it down, but I don't know if Keefe D, if that'll apply to him. They arrested him in Nevada. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure what the laws are, but the California Supreme Court struck it down. And
so you were safe.
So now you can't take my money. There's no rule against what I'm doing. And then even as they're trying to figure out how to implement those rules, takes 2 or 3 years.
Takes a while. You're running it up.
Yeah. It got to go through the Assembly bill. Right. It got to be agreed with the Senate, Congress, signed by a governor in order to change these rules. So I got this window where from 1996 to 2002, I'm just whooping their asses, and it ain't nothing they could do to stop it. And so I did. I ended up having a lot of angry police, man. They just and I couldn't talk about that shit while I was on parole. Right. But like, I went through it, and they were trying to figure out, throw me in a dungeon. I'm ready with 100 songs, so I get a hold of a recording. I'm dropping 100. I'm dropping 100 in a weekend. Get smuggling them bitches out. Come and get me. Put me in the hole. I don't give a fuck.
I'm sure once the iPhone gets introduced to that changed everything.
It did change everything. It sped me up. But as the technology grew, so did my awareness of the potential that I was going home. So I wasn't always sure about that. And there's stages now. I know the stages of development of my understanding. First, it started with hopelessness, and then it turned into, I might not be here forever for the rest of my life. Maybe I won't. I don't know. You see laws, you hear everybody. There's always somebody coming, man, this piece of legislation gonna change your life, X. I'm like, whatever, man. All right. And so my big homie N9ne actually was one of the ones where he was at San Quentin. He got a murder with another of my OGs, the two founders, the founder of 24th Street Garden Block, and N9ne as a founder of 29th Street Garden Block. And they caught a case. N9ne gets 50 years. He ended up doing 31. And in the course of that, you got these two men, one who taught me survival, how this is how you fight, this is how you make a knife. He taught me that, and later was able to teach me, this is take your ass home. But N9ne was more educated from the perspective of hope faster than we were because he got to do some of his time at San Quentin, where they had all these programs and where rehabilitation was at the forefront. It was the darling of CDCR, damn near still is.
Right.
And so he was one of the ones who started saying, "No, you take your ass to school." You know, I got my phone. It hit me on Facebook. I see him pictures of what he doing on the yard. And it just made me feel like, damn, man, it ain't got to just be like this fucked up ass 180 design I'm at, or this 270 yard. Like it's a different ways to do your time. And so he gave me permission really I needed it from somebody that I respected as a gangster to go take my ass to anger management class, take my ass in there. I got my GED, go to school.
All that looks good too, I'm sure, when they.
And that was his point. But, you know, I didn't really have that much hope in that. And so I remember Miller versus Alabama went to the Supreme Court. And Miller versus Alabama was a case about a juvenile in Alabama who was sentenced to the death penalty. Mm-hmm. And the argument was, is it a violation of our Eighth Amendment right against cruel and unusual punishment to sentence a juvenile to death, or even to sentence them to life in prison without an opportunity for them to grow? Right. And that neuroscience had demonstrated that at the age of 25, we start seeing the results of maturation and development, and that these children should be allowed to have an opportunity to prove that they grew up and that they got a different perspective and maybe they're a completely different person. And so the Supreme Court ruled they got rid of it, death sentences for juveniles. But in their ruling, they stated essentially if a case reached them about life in prison for juveniles, they'd likely rule in favor for that as well.
Yeah.
And this is important when people don't understand why voting is important. The Supreme Court we had at the time was impacted by Clinton, and then impacted by Bush, and then impacted by Obama.
Yeah.
So the people making those decisions, you know, we end up, Trump puts 3 people on the Supreme Court.
Right.
And there goes Roe versus Wade. There goes.
Yeah, the Supreme Court, I always tell people, like, if you can just remove all of the, you know, antics about politicians and just wherever you feel you're aligned with, the Supreme Court's what matters the most, probably.
It really is, and the presidency matters because they're gonna appoint him, yeah. And they're gonna color that Supreme Court the way they want to.
For sure.
And there's an argument that if today's Supreme Court was the Supreme Court ruling on Miller versus Alabama, I'd still be in prison.
You'd still be in prison.
I literally would still be in prison if today's Supreme Court was ruling.
All right, guys, let's stop the interview for a second. Football season is upon us. It's my favorite time of the year. That means we get to gamble on MyBookie on our favorite football teams. And the best part about MyBookie is now you can do the parlays and cash out early. Let's say you do a 3-leg parlay, 2 of the 3 hit. You get to cash out early. I just did this too. Because, you know, I also like to gamble on a little baseball. But NFL season is approaching, man. And look, this is what it is. It's not only having such a great time winning that extra money, it just makes you pay attention to the games more, man. I love throwing a little something, a little action, man. Week 1 is coming. Preseason NFL is coming. There's so much. And I'm going to tell you this, my promo code right now, use that promo code Bootleg at mybookie.ag. That's mybookie.ag. Sign up with a new account. Promo code Bootleg. You're going to lock in that welcome bonus. That's going to get all the way up to $1,000. Yes. If you put in $1,000, it's going to get you that bonus up to $1,000, free money to bet with. And let me just tell y'all, I am hammering the Arizona Cardinals over total wins for this season. I like it. I like it a lot. I'm also putting a little, I was just having a conversation with my boy about this. Now, I'm not a handicapper, but I'm going to tell you what I like. MyBookie.ag, promo code Bootleg. Get that first deposit bonus right now. I'm going to tell you what I like, though. I like 3 teams throw a little something on just to win a Super Bowl this year. I'm going to go with, these are 3 decent odds. The Jets, because everyone's off the Jets right now. Just saying. The Texans, great odds on the Texans. And the Bengals. 3 AFC teams, throw a little something on each one of them, win a Super Bowl, thank me later. I got a feeling one of those 3 might make it. We'll see. MyBookie.ag, promo code Bootleg, man. Let's get ready for this football season together. Oh, I'm so excited. Also want to give a shout out, speaking of being excited, Blue Chew. That's right, man. It's that time, all right? Fellas, if you're dealing with erectile dysfunction of any sort, maybe you're stressed out, maybe you're tired of your girl, you just need to get it up for a little bit. Whatever it is, go to we just talked about my bookie. Go to Blue Chew, bluechew.com. Get your dick right, fellas. Yes, if your Johnson is not Johnsoning, that's an interesting way to put it. Don't trip. Blue Chew's got you. It's got the same active ingredient as Viagra and Cialis in a chewable form. Best part about it, 0 doctor's appointments involved. Yes, that means you go to the website, bluechew.com, you put that promo code in, Bootleg, because you're going to get a month's supply for free with the promo code Bootleg at bluechew.com, a whole month for free to see just for yourself what I'm talking about, because it definitely works. And then you just handle everything online. There's no awkward doctor's appointments. And then it's delivered to your house in discreet packaging. And then look, your dick's going to get much harder than it's ever been. So let's just be clear. That Blue Chew be hitting, all right? So look, go to bluechew.com, promo code Bootleg, get a month supply for free. Only got to is pay $5 shipping, all right? That's it. All right, let's get back to the interview, though. Well, that's why I think a lot of people were saying RBG, before she passed away, she should have retired while Obama was in, because then he could have, but she stayed in, and then obviously was replaced with a more conservative judge.
Yep, I think Trump might have got to put 2 or 3 on there.
Yeah,
I think he did.
I think it was at least 2.
At least
it might
2.
have been 3.
Yeah, it was at least 2. We know for sure, and it changed the dynamic. So the Supreme Court did make that statement. So when they said that, and in their ruling, the states started freaking out. Because they're like, a case is going to get up there.
For sure.
Case is on the way up there. People start filing cases,
of course,
to make sure.
Yeah.
So a case is on its way up there. The court has indicated that they're definitely going to rule in favor of it if it makes it up there. And if they do, it'll be like how we saw with gay marriage. The states had control of that. But when the Supreme Court said this is legal everywhere, it was legal everywhere. That once they make a ruling, that's the law of the United States of America. Right. Your decision, individual decisions is out. It would have been the same thing with the decision versus the juveniles with life. Now all these states would have to let these people out,
right,
and figure out what to do with them, and have no mechanism in place to control it because it was being dictated to them by the federal government. Yeah. So as a result, they proposed Senate Bill 260. Senator Lonnie Hancock, a Democrat out of Northern California, proposed that there be a process called the youth offender law that allowed a juvenile to go to board. So if you were between the ages of, if you were younger than 18, you would have an opportunity to go to board and be examined to find out if you were worthy of being released from prison. If you did not pose an unreasonable risk for violent recidivism in the community.
So that's where all of the things that you did helped you out. GED, anger management.
Owning my home.
Yeah.
Like I was already ready to go home. And so they send Dr. Lear to me, and you got my big homie hit me like, yo, the chop and the OGs and the law library, this is big news on the yard.
For sure.
So I'm working out in the cell, minding my business, football game on, and I remember I get called out to see us. So they like, hey, the psychologist is here to see you. And so typically, I had signed up for these programs, so I would go to have a sit down with a psychologist probably once every 2 weeks or something like that, or at least once a month. Right. But that's normal, the staff that walks the yard. So I get dressed because I want to get a homie some time to himself, let him have the cell for a minute. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to go holler at this psychologist, man. Enjoy yourself. I'll be back. Because, we were locked down, all that. We around each other so a lot. And so, boom,
if you go rub one out, do it now.
Yeah. That's pretty much the green light. Handle your business, man, whatever.
I'll be back.
And so I go over there to the program office, and they send me to the bad news place. You usually go over there. It's your mama died. Your daddy died. Right. Your kid is sick.
Right.
It's the bad news building. So I'm like, what the fuck? And I walk in the room, and it's this older gentleman sitting there by himself, dwarfed by the table. And I sit on the other side of him, and he introduces himself as Dr. Lear, and he says he's a forensic psychologist from the Board of Prison Hearings. And he asked me if I was willing to have a conversation with him. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm 245 pounds with a 4% body fat, benching 405. I'm sweating. I just got through doing burpees. So I'm sitting here looking at him, and he's like, he takes me through my whole life. And he's like a fine tooth comb. There's no playing with Dr. Lear. He's seen it all. He's heard it all. And he is here to decide on his own judgment if you're a sociopathic monster that needs to stay right where you are.
Or if you're going to go home.
Or if you're going to go home. It had a lot to do. If he said, I think this person needs further development, you're sitting there until he says, I think you did it. And so he talked about immutable factors, childhood issues, things you can't control that create who you become. He very much explained his understanding of how I ended up being a 17-year-old child in the circumstances that I was in. And there's no arguing about that. It's, do you understand it? You've been found guilty by a jury or your peers. We're not retrying your case.
Right.
This is factual to them legally. That's all there is.
But do you understand how you ended up in that situation?
Do you understand how you got there, and have you implemented measures that you can take to prevent you from being in that circumstance again, period. And then you have a psychopathy exam, and it essentially is a psychopathy examination. And you have to score in the 25th percentile or under, or they're going to tell the parole board that you're a threat to the safety of others in society if they were to release you, which is what they did to Manson every time he went to board, 100% of the time. And so Dr. Lear told me, man, he said, well, at the end, when he had made up his mind about what he thought about me, he kind of just sat back and said, Mr. Brown, we're trying to let you go home. And I think you changed your life and you didn't care who did it. Well, who knew you did it. It didn't matter to you, but it's time for you to care now that people know. I mean, I have my home. I own my home. I got my business set up. I've done anger management. I got my GED. I'm enrolled in an AA program for college credits. I'm attending Narcotics Anonymous at that point. I'm doing all kind of shit.
Did you end up picking up like a drug habit while in prison?
I didn't. I think
because I know a lot of people do. Because it's like you ain't got shit to do. Like the shit gets passed around. Like
but you know us culturally. Well, it's frowned upon to do certain hard drugs culturally from the era that I come from.
For sure.
You know, I know it got popular to sniff this or sniff that.
Everybody's sniffing shit these days.
Yeah.
All the rappers are high on real drugs.
Yeah, I can't. It's too late for me, man. So, yeah, I attended those things because I have a lifestyle addiction, not necessarily a drug addiction. So if I did want to sniff something, which I've sniffed something before, if I wanted to sniff something, if I wanted to, now I'm sniffing. Now I'm calling people cuz one time too many. I'm tripping. I got little triggers active.
Your fuse gets shorter.
If my fuse, and next thing you know, I'm sagging. I'm moving a certain kind of way because I have a lifestyle addiction, and that kind of alcohol comes with that. Womanizing comes with that. Pistol packing comes with that. Sniffing something comes with that. Violence comes with that. And so I have to be conscious of how to protect my lifestyle from relapse. A lifestyle
That's
addiction.
some real shit. I always say, like, if you ever have like any addiction to anything, you could kind of apply the NA or AA shit to like any sort of vice you might have.
Yeah, and at least the process. And that's why I like NA more than AA, because it was more philosophical than religious.
Right, AA is very religious.
Very religious.
Very.
And the peace and blessings to anybody that needed that way, but I didn't.
Right.
I didn't require that, and it turned me off. And so I was like, and the homie's like, nah, I go to NA, trust me. And it was a completely different experience. And then we had Criminals and Gang Members Anonymous. It was a lot of different groups available to me in that environment that I started attending. And once I had done my time as a gang member who went to prison as a rapper.
Right.
And then made a shitload of money and got more famous while I was doing my time. So I had to learn.
I mean, it was a part of like your fucking appeal. Like, yo, there's this dude dropping albums in fucking prison. This shit is crazy.
Yeah, it was. It was a part of the magic. And so I was anti-administration and anti-cop because I was operating as a criminal and as a gang member, not no famous person. I'm not no fucking celebrity, right? So I get classified. I got a letter from Monster Cody that they kept for like 2 months. They finally brought it to me. It was all tore up. They had tried to decode it and shit. and I got flagged for receiving that letter. And then I got a letter from Tukey. So like when we dropped Deadly Game, they wanted to know, man, who wrote that? Whose spirit did that come from? So Wendy Day, Davy D, Monster Cody, Tukey, they wanted to know what made me write that song. And then you got Misanthropy, Land of the Lost. So I had kind of started getting on the government's ass a little bit.
Right.
You know, I started trying to talk about, 3 strikes and you're out. Motherfuckers getting 25 to life for stealing a slice of pizza. Like this happened to this nigga next door to me.
Crazy.
And so I'm starting to take these stances in my music. And so I got validated as a gang member, and then they made me high notoriety public interest case, and they made me being a high notoriety public interest case is it's what they give you as a celebrity.
Right.
So the high notoriety is what they'll give like Charles Manson,
right,
and a public interest case, Scott Peterson, Tukey, a Monster Cody. Right. It's only some of us that they did that to. And so once they hit me with that particular label, I think the LA Times started calling the institution. MTV started calling the institution, coming in with cameras, news crews and shit on the yard in the day room like this, in the day room of the prison.
Crazy.
And so it's like, yeah, this is some celebrity shit. And so it was Lyle Menendez, getting with Lyle Menendez. He was one of the first people to start telling me, you're allowing yourself to be defined by other people because you're not utilizing your celebrity.
Is that one of the Menendez brothers?
It is.
So you linked up with one of them or both of them?
Both. I'm the Menendez brother, as they say. I'm the Black Menendez brother. Like both Lyle and Eric are two of my favorite human beings on the planet.
Did they tell you did they ever tell you what really went down?
You know what? It's not appropriate to dig in nobody's business like that.
Right. But I wonder if I'm not saying you got to share, but did you guys ever talk about?
I have significant insight about everything. Like I was their first time being put together on the yard. Like I was the only one they allowed in the room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where they had got their first conversation after not seeing each other since they were sentenced.
Yeah. How long did they keep them apart?
It's like 20-something years.
Crazy.
Yeah. Me and Lyle were there, and Eric got moved to us. Or vice versa. Me and Eric were there, and Lyle got moved to us.
You still write them or keep in communication with those guys?
Absolutely. Yeah. Call me. I'm working. Strange Music is working to. I think you on that email, Richie. They're working to get me back into the facility that I paroled from down at R.J. Donovan. It's like how San Quentin is. That's what they're doing down there, and I'm gonna go back in and do a concert, make a donation. So if you got some money for me, man, I need your money, so I could give it to the fellas for this program. But we going to go in there, me and N9ne, Travis O'Gwen, and go to the facility, do a concert, talk to the boys about this is how far I came. You know, Scott Butnick has programs there, the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, the beautification program that they have.
Right.
And so we're going to raise some money for them. See if I can get them 20, 30 bands. If I could beat that, that's awesome. But 20, 30 bands real quick that make a big difference in that environment. But also to walk Tech and Travis with the camera rolling in my cell that I left this cell to come free. And as a result of that, I'm sitting here. So, yeah, we are working with Lyle and Eric to be able to pull that off. They're spearheading that program. And
then you guys connected initially because you guys were both high profile, quote unquote, celebrity cases?
Yeah, that's kind of what happened. Like Lyle was on the yard, we were playing football. Somebody elbowed him and I didn't like it. Because it was the first time I ever saw somebody hit a yard. Like when I was with Bo, I still was operating on some gangster shit. So me and Bo was just moving 2 garden block cribs, moving them around the yard. We didn't give a fuck about we rappers, And then we had a circumstance where like Suge Knight. But Lyle was the first person I got to see and listen to how people perceive the famous person. And it was like, damn, is that how you niggas talk about me? Is you niggas talk about me like that? Right. You know what I mean? So I felt protective of him because it was like selfishly protective of me.
Right.
Like, fuck that. And so he was on the line and he, he had heart and he works out. He's strong. The motherfucker elbowed him in his lip and I just was like, nigga, the next motherfucker that tries to hurt somebody on purpose, as opposed to just football. It's up. It's up. It's man. The whole team, yeah, nigga, everybody agreed, and he got to do his thing, And I ain't to say he needed me to do that for him, but somebody needed to say something. somebody had to fucking say something. Like, man,
So you were like kind of like protecting him, low key. I mean, high key.
I stood up for him. Lyle could protect himself.
Right.
He's a sturdy man. You know, he's a good dude. Lyle could protect himself. But what was happening, you know, he was like he was being hazed, and he was tolerating it because, you know, he wanted to
Some
prove.
frat shit, yeah.
Yeah, and I just like, man,
Well,
he would bust his lip like, man, the next motherfucker to do something that I think is intentional, we gonna get their ass whipped.
So, because that's the thing is like when we always hear so much about like the politics of the California prison system, right? But if like someone like the Menendez brothers goes in, do they like who do they fall in line with, or are they just separate from everybody because of their status? If that makes sense.
So that goes back to the point I was making about the difference in my perspective as a criminal versus the person who was a public interest high notoriety case. And I've been around Lyle. By the time they decided, okay, this motherfucker, the MTV interview and the Tukey Williams letter and the letter from Monster really pushed it over the edge. But Lyle and Eric operate above the population, and they move like politicians, not in a bad way, but they're very much hyper aware of the impact of their arrival and what that means and their influence. You know, they got the Secretary of Corrections on speed dial. Some of them were COs on the yard.
I mean, it's one of the most high profile cases ever.
And so we talk about two very highly influential motherfuckers that could pretty much get whatever they want done because they are doing it for the right reason. You know what I mean? They're not really trying to do some crazy shit. Most of the time it's beneficial to the population and something that the warden could be proud to put in his hat. And so Lyle was the one who started saying, you're using your fame incorrectly and you're having a rougher experience. So like I went through smuggling and beating rules, there is no rule, trying to record songs, to spending about 4 years of inside of University of Eric and Lyle Menendez, right? And all of a sudden I'm building studios on the yard now with permission of the fucking warden. You were
sneaking around, it was contraband, and now you got permission.
And now I'm building a fucking studio for anybody. You got
anybody who's locked up.
If you're staying out of trouble, that's what you got to be doing.
You could get studio time.
You could get studio time. And a podcast on that yard. We were able to do it.
Wow.
Yeah, man. I was out there. Lil U-Turn was there. The big homie Ron from 60s. I had, because there are a lot of those programs, and why Lyle and Eric started, because Eric had a lot of groups that he was founding. He would found, there was no anger management group. He would create it and find a staff member willing to be the facilitator and get the cops to sign off on it, the warden to sign off on it, get a space for it. And now he can handing out certificates. He's like, man, people need this shit in their records when they go to board. So between Dooney and the Menendez brothers, they were the first ones to start allowing me to understand that this shit could go in my file. And so that's why I was butt naked with nothing in my file really to show for, you know, Dr. Lear had to look for that shit. Right. He was looking for it and finding it. Like, this motherfucker got the title to a house in his central file because they have to notarize it. So it's like you have a title to a home in your file. You have anger management slips. You have... Like, why did I have to look for that? There's a section that could have just been in. There's a section in your file for that, and it's not there. I had to go find it. And people who wrote good stuff that I didn't know about, counselor saying, you know, right. Mr. Brown is one of the most intelligent men you'll meet, and, you know, whatever they write. Yeah.
Knowing those guys, did you watch the FX show?
Nah, I never watched it. I didn't have to.
Yeah, you're like, I have some insight.
I know 100% of all of that shit.
Yeah.
And all of it directly from them. But
do those guys, like, are they like pretty sensitive to like narratives that get put out about what happened? And like, you know, obviously there's, I mean, I feel like when you're that famous for such a huge case like that, you almost can't let the noise get to you because you'll fucking go crazy, I'm sure. You
will, crazier, because that experience is crazy.
Right.
And so if you wasn't crazy, you're gonna get
if you
crazy.
Pay attention to all of that and like what people think about you and
yeah. And so they have impenetrable senses of self, right? If you believe the cheers, you'll believe the boos. If you believe the boos, you're gonna believe the cheers. You gotta just kind of be right in the middle.
Skate in the middle, man, for sure.
Yeah, man, it's the best way to do it. That's
why I always say you can't read the comments.
Or if you read them, you got to read them. You got to observe them.
Yeah.
I can observe. I don't have to
you can't
internalize
them. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know this motherfucker. It's like Oprah said, like you're not even talking about me. I don't know you and you don't know me. You just talking about what you think. And I don't have to give a fuck. I have to worry. I care what my bank account look like. My baby's is fed. So that's more important to me. And they were like that. They could be impacted, you know, or they would impact each other. One of them do an interview and didn't talk about it to the other one first, or write about it. It's like, man, what you do, you know? And maybe a little bit of intensity involved in that with the two of them. But for the most part, they taught me to be so centrally focused and obsessed with your primary goal, which for them was quality of life. Because I've always said, man, you motherfuckers are two of the best human beings I ever met. You're going to get out of here. Because they were always talking to me about going home, but it was weird to talk to them about it because they had life without the possibility of parole.
Yeah.
So them working so hard on me was a trip when you think that these motherfuckers were sentenced in a way where they were never getting home. But they are the ones who are helping everybody else on their way home.
Right.
It was them, and nobody talked about it. And nobody stood on it. Like, I wouldn't want to be associated with that shit on some gangster shit.
Right.
If I like, what the fuck would I, you know what I mean? If I could sit in this chair and not talk about that, I would. But it would be some sucker shit. Because the truth is, they was in there helping every fucking body, including me. Anybody that was willing to do it. And so you go to board, they'll deny you for not having AA.
Right.
They'll deny you for not doing NA. They'll deny you for not doing anger management. But they also not going to have that program. Right? So you out here on this yard, and none of the shit the board is asking you for is here.
You have any sort of access to do.
And now, can you get a transfer? When do you go to board? Is the transfer for the board? Can you transfer somewhere that does have any? Do they have it where you would transfer at? So the best solution is you got to deal with this warden. You got to write a memo, and you got to set that bitch up. And these are the I wrote to NA. They have agreed to give us the supplies, and they're asking if we give them a space, they will send a facilitator in here. And like, okay,
and that
boom.
was on the warden, yeah.
The warden signs that bitch, boom, and here it goes. And he's like, don't fuck me over.
Right.
I don't want nothing. Don't be in there fucking these bitches.
Off, yeah.
Don't do some crazy shit. Don't smuggle nothing in my prison. I'm going to sign. I'm putting my name on this. And you got to stand on that. And that's what they was doing. And as a result, I ended up with 10 million different kinds of certificates and all kind of shit in the right spot of my file. So by the time I went to board, it was up.
Yo, break it down to me, because you going gold while incarcerated is crazy. But you're also in a position that could be a vulnerable one where you're in jail. So you could be taken advantage of. There's a lot of money happening. I mean, even if you sell 100,000 records in the 90s, like that's like real money, right?
Oh, yeah.
So how are you keeping track of the money that's coming in from all this music? And how are you making sure that like your finances are aligned? You're not getting fucked? Like,
yeah, man, I did it like a gangster for many years. You know, my homeboys, Big Pook. You know, I had people in place from Garden Block who were making sure shit was going the way I wanted. And then my relationship with Cedric was different from a lot of other people. So Cedric protected me from a lot of things. And then, you know, I would get 50,000 transferred over here. And now, like what I like to say is they have a cup of water, but I control the spout. And so somebody could fuck off what I put there, but all they did was teach me I can't put nothing there. But even that was an expensive learning experience. So you got my aunts, my family started tripping. Like, hey, man, such and such has set money on fire. Like one of my aunts had a real strong conversation with me about that same year that Vengeance Is Mine comes out and does 100,000 copies. And we're getting $7 a pop for these motherfuckers, right? So we talking about a week. We made 700,000 in a week before taxes and whatever.
Right.
And so my aunt was like, listen to me. And so, you know, I had a very strong visit with my sister, my family, and I hired a lawyer. So, like, one of my guys came home from Afghanistan, and, you know, he was writing to me, and I always wrote the military back. Still, if I see him, I acknowledge them. Right. You know, they riding in a Hummer, strapped the fuck up, bumping, you better bring your knife to the yard. They mean it. Right. You know what I mean? Out here, you used to do or die, and they I made do or die music. Right. So there's a lot of them who fucked with me. And so one of the guys that I was writing back and forth with came home and was like, man, I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do with my life. I was like, I got you. And he started just doing any and everything, getting it done. And he went and found the lawyer. He went and found the accountant. And then I used the lawyer and accountant to build my LLC while I was still there. So in 2005, Blockstar Entertainment Incorporated, that was my first iteration. And I got all my articles done, and then my lawyer went and got the accountant, really. So my guy, Mike, found the lawyer,
and then
the Wine Tribe Law Corporation. Yeah. I got Scott Hervey from the Wine Tribe Law Corporation. And then I ended up getting the accountant, and then those two people, that was it. Those two firms, the law firm and my accountant firm, I was good. And now if I want to send something somewhere, I will. If I don't, I won't. And then attorney-client trust account. So I start dumping all my money in there, because if the courts or anybody wanted to see it, they had to subpoena the records. You couldn't just say hit the bank or just decide you want to know what my finances are. I had it set up in an attorney-client trust account where they would even have to notify us that that was something they wanted to do, or my lawyer would have the ability to say that this was something that he didn't have to reveal and fight over it, at least give us a chance to figure out what we wanted to do. So I got set up. By 2005, I was set up to have a life, you know what I mean? And then
that's still like 15 years later from when you go in, right? Yeah, about 15, like about 14
that was my
years later.
15th year. Yeah.
So that's like, there's still a lot of money. So what do you get out of prison, and you because you were able to take those, you're fine. Like you have at least some sort of financial security.
Yeah, absolutely. And I came home with, my ex-wife was somebody who, and we had trained that way. When we first met, she was in a small apartment, you know what I mean? Just trying to survive.
Was this someone you met before you went to jail?
Nah, we met while I was doing my time. And so...
How does that work, by the way?
Man, you want to be loved, man. You're trying to find love. Nah, sometimes it's the homies hooking you up, or somebody you have a peripheral thing with. But for me, I ran through every distraction that you can have in life in that environment. I was like Solomon and Ecclesiastes. I did all the bullshit. So I got high, I got drunk, the homies sending me bitches. Me, Lynch, and Six did a competition on who could get the most bitches to tattoo your name on them. I won. From the pen, I won. We thought it was funny, you know what I mean? Like on some gangster shit. So in there you develop a view of relationships based highly on getting things done.
Right.
You need a runner more than you need a bitch to be in love with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. You need someone who you can trust to go, hey, I need you to go holler at the lawyer. I need you to go.
Yeah, and I'm going to love that. I don't give a fuck what you do with your vagina. You get in there, bitch, trying to convince you, I love you, and all I and blah, blah, blah. Man, you know how many bitches got pregnant while I was doing my time?
Right.
From 1992 to 2002, I had no less than 6 or 7 bitches that was handling business for me. Pregnant.
That ended up getting pregnant.
Ended up tattoos and everything. Yeah. This bitch pregnant in the motherfucker.
Yeah.
You know, bitch, you got my name all across your ass. The nigga done skeeted on you. Done let a nigga skeet on my name, you punk ass bitch. No diddy.
Did they all tell you, I'm going to wait for you?
Yeah, they all selling you the same bullshit you selling them. It is what it is, right? And you providing for them, and they making runs, and it's a job. They making some money. Right. You making some money.
It's mutually beneficial.
Mutually beneficial. So by the time I got to the point where, I'm gonna be in this relationship, you feel you come into that aware of all this trash, and it's trauma too. It's trauma. You might have liked a few of these bitches, so it's some trauma. So now you got a female that you looking at like, man, maybe I could. Maybe we might be able to do this real thing I want to do.
Right.
Because now I got the accountant and the lawyer. I got a little bit of a bag. Right. I can send her 10 bands here. I can send her 5 bands there. It's different. You know what I mean? So it's like, you gonna stand on business? You know what I mean? So you got somebody, and she was the type of person who would. Graduated college, was, had a corporate psychology, and I'm instilling this gangster shit in that. And so by the time I got home, she had whooped them some ass, and the lawyers, and we had whooped some ass. And, on a $700,000 house here, coming from a home that I think, and we have one in Sparks. And when they built that Tesla battery factory, sold that and got a bag and used that bag to get the bigger spot. So I don't even know I'm getting out, and I got a home in the gated community in Las Vegas, and I'm still in the pen.
Crazy.
And the title for that is in my file because I had to, I had to notarize it. So the notary come in, you got to stamp that, the record, and that went in my file. So they knew that too. This motherfucker out this house, he got this, he got that. They was aware of it and the business that I built. So yeah, I started wanting to have a real life for myself. And now I'm your brain development. I hit 25, I knew like, damn, man, it's a lot of bullshit going on. I'm full of shit. Mm-hmm. Everybody's full of shit. But the music was honest. I was being honest in them lyrics. And so I just went into start adulthood, man. I decided like I want to be grown. My body was already, I told one of my little homies this, nigga, you could just wake up in the morning and be like, I'm grown, and you would be right. And he was like, what you mean? I'm like, I said, nigga, your New Year's resolution is going to be a man, be an adult. Your body already did it. It's just now a decision got to be made. And I had already done that. '02 was when I started my 10th year. I'm rocking and rolling that whole time. Any and everywhere I go, riots, melees, all this bullshit, dope, right. Smuggling shit in, making music, rocking and rolling. I get to 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005. I got the lawyer, I got the accountant, I got a woman that's going hard on some adult shit, and I'm thinking like, all right, if I got to do the rest of my life, I'm going to do it like this. And then over the course of that, from '05 to 2012, I start going to the psychologist. Dooney tell me to do these programs.
Right, that becomes like, there's a light at the end of the tunnel potentially.
There's a way of life. Right. I just wanted to, if I was going to be in there for the rest of my life, I wanted to do it like a G.
Right.
I wanted to be a grown-ass man. I wanted to be in control of whatever part of my destiny I could control. And so I focused on that. And then Miller versus Alabama started popping up. That shit was on the cover of the USA Today. I was like, ooh-wee. Like, nigga. And the big homies there, people started, hey, man, the OGs are talking. This is real. Right. This is on the Assembly floor. And then, boom, by 2012, the legislation for Senate Bill 260, remember my little homie Bird, my young brother Bird, actually brought that paper to me. Because they knew I hated that. Don't bring me this shit talking about I'm going home. Same way I didn't want to do the Lyle and Eric.
Right.
It's talking about this shit. I'm fine making my fucking burritos, watching Sunday Night Football, bro.
Right.
Bring me this fucking bullshit. Have me down the street emotionally and my spirit. So I'm like, whatever. And this nigga was like, X, listen to me. X, listen to me. He's standing at the door. And he's like, you're going home. You're going home. And he slid the papers through the door. He was crying. And we took off, so I didn't have to see him cry. And I read that shit. I was like, what the fuck? I went and jumped on the phone, called home. It's like, whatever. We hear this all the time. And my lady called my lawyer. I had Charles Carbone. And she called the lawyer, and he was like, yeah, this is real, and we'll have him out of there. It's going to take me about 3 years, but he's coming home. And I was like, ooh.
So now you got something to look forward to.
Yeah, so now we're hopelessness to maybe to hope to thinking. I was thinking now, man, I think I might get the fuck out of here.
So give me, so you had an incident in 2010 where you almost got killed in prison.
They like to say it like I almost got killed.
Well, you got stabbed multiple times.
Yeah, I did get stabbed, yeah.
Now, this is in the middle of the hope at the end of the, you see, there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
It was a lot going on at that point, yeah.
So what happened from what I understand, you were essentially approached to like help put out some music from somebody in prison, and you said no, or something. Like, give me that. What happened?
I think even the approach to get music was a red herring. What really happened, and then we could talk about this now, is that I went on an attorney visit. I read the rules, and in the rules, your attorney can do a deposition and bring a recording device.
Okay.
And so I'm still on my shit. And this time, what I'm motivated by is I wanted to record some songs that represented my current philosophy.
Yeah, where your head is currently.
Yeah, I felt like I was the kid with the gun to his head was 16 when he took that picture. The Unforgiven X-rated, I was a different person. So I'm like, I wanted to make sure I could get some music done. So I go out with my lawyer and I'm recording the music. In the rules, they can't listen to your attorney visit. But the cop in the room can hear me rapping in there. And so he don't know what to do. And they don't know the fucking rules. They learn the rules by fucking the rules up and getting corrected. They don't know the fucking book. We know the book better than they do.
Right.
And so this dude calls his sergeant like, man, I don't know what to do. But this dude is in there recording. He's rapping. He's recording raps. And the sergeant busts in the room and he picked all the equipment up and he took the fucking raps
Recorder.
and he cussed my lawyer out. And I'll tell him, hey, man, you making a mistake, Sarge. You making a mistake, Sarge. He's like, yeah, you get the fuck out of here. Who the fuck you think you're doing? Take your ass back to your cell. I said, you don't have to talk to me like that, sir. You're making a mistake, Sarge. You're making a mistake. So I go back and they put me in my cell. About 30 minutes later, they call me to the program office. I walk in the program office, and I can see the people standing there now. The lawyers are here. I can see the higher-ups are here. And I sit in the chair, and the sergeant is standing there looking like he fucking got a canary in his mouth because he got checked. And the captain is there, and they got these fucking papers they want me to sign. And I'm like, yeah, what we doing? And they like, well, Mr. Brown, looks like we have ourselves a pickle. Whatever you may have been doing is not against the rules. I was like, that's why I was doing it.
Yeah, I'm aware.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
And but what they would like is for me to talk about it outside of that fucking legal visit because I'm only protected in that legal visit. So I'm aware of that. So I'm not about to acknowledge nothing that I was doing.
100%.
So they were like, well, how many songs did you record? And I didn't answer the question. And then I finally said it is, do you think I'm stupid? Like, do we think I'm stupid? I know what's going on here. You got checked. I told you to leave me alone. I told you were making a mistake. And when I'm done with you, you're going to be working in a tower outside of the prison by yourself for 8 hours with a pair of binoculars watching tumbleweeds when I'm done with you because you should have left me the fuck alone. So they don't like that. They don't like that. That's too much power. They got to leave this dude the fuck alone. And he got a lawyer and he's got some money. I'm too protected. We can't send me back to the yard and X-rated dies and that's going to be okay. Like, it ain't that kind of circumstance. So what can they do? The Son of Sam lawsuit didn't work. The Son of Sam law got struck down by the California Supreme Court. This is not against the rules, what I just tried to do. I don't even have possession of contraband, and you can't even say that you heard.
You can't even say you heard the tape because it's illegal,
If you say you heard it, you're in a checkmate. Right? So give me my shit, and I'm going back to my cell, correct? And it's like, yeah, that's what it is. So I go back to this cell. Sarge ends up in that tower, that version of that tower. And his friends are mad about that. So now I got this crop of angry cops who are upset that they just got defeated like
COs,
that.
right?
COs.
Yeah.
And I get warned about that. I get warned that, hey,
there's these COs that they ain't fucking with you.
There's cops who are fans of me and that are hearing the talk. And they're like, man, these dudes are advocating for something to happen to you, man. Be aware of that. Be aware. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Like, if somebody think I did all that time and I'm standing on that yard that day and don't know that this is going down, then they ain't never did no time. So I'm outside because I didn't give a fuck, bro. I mean, I've seen worse than that. To me, these was kids they was playing.
Right.
They was playing tough. Everybody had an opportunity to go be tough. I done changed my life, got my shit together. I'm just dropping me some rhymes. So approaching me about doing anything for them we used to do that to people. You know what I mean? Like, hey, homie, what's happening? You got my $5? You gave me that deodorant, that toothpaste I gave you. Hey, man, we was going to fuck you up anyway. It was going to happen. It wasn't no getting out of it. So when them dudes started that whole make an album for me thing, or we need $2,000 or this or that, I was like, I'm not giving a nigga a soup on. I'm not doing nothing I don't want to do. And again, I'm the biggest motherfucker on the yard, right? I didn't start peeling the weight off until I got to board. And my lawyer was like, you're a black man with all this hair and all these muscles and all this, you're terrifying to look at to the people you're about to. My lawyer told me to cut my hair. My lawyer told me to lose some weight. My lawyer told me.
I'm a smart guy. Yeah. Perception is everything.
And then my health told me to keep it this way. You know what I mean? Now that I'm 50 years old and free. But at the time, I'm not worried about nobody doing nothing to me, and not because of no tough shit. I just believe, man, I believe in something greater than me, man. They call it God. People call it the universe. Man, Allahu Akbar is how I feel. Nigga, if it's meant for me today, let's go. I want to know. I'm not waking up and thinking this nigga can whoop me. you got to come and do it. You could taking a life, they call it. I'm not giving you shit. And so we was outside and niggas walked up and then I see that you don't have no business coming this direction. I'm at a table for Crips and Bloods. You know what I mean? It's a pie roof from Cedar Block over here. It's a San Diego Keyway. It's a brother from the Bay. It's just it's a black table. And so my instincts is when it got too close, I went straight at him and bap, 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 and he got dropped. And it turns out that was the person that had the primary weapon that would have been most harmful.
So like you dropped the biggest threat.
Yeah, and it was good because he was the tough one. And so now everybody else is thinking now. And you're supposed to run. Somebody pulled a knife on you, you're supposed to run. But Barry and Dooney and others, I knew that's if you turn your back, you done.
Yeah.
You gotta, nigga, we gotta do this. And in doing so, you could look that man in his eyes, Kev. You could look him in his eyes and see. After pussy. This nigga's on the ground, you can see they made him do it.
Yeah.
You didn't want to come over here.
You didn't want to do it. Yeah.
You don't, we doing this now. I'm talking to people. We in the same amount of trouble if we stop right now or if we keep going. It's up. This is it. And I kind of, there's a couple of them that I wanted to do something to for a while.
Right.
And I wasn't in a position in my life to be able to start nothing.
To just jump off.
I couldn't start nothing.
But you could defend yourself.
But I could defend myself. And so I got to beat a couple motherfuckers up. And I got a couple scratches and scrapes and bruises, but ain't nobody damn near killed nothing.
Damn.
That's a motherfucking lie. And so the reason they think that lie is because when I was so I'm in the room and they examining, and I got a motherfucker asking me questions. And the cops are mad about it. The nurses and shit are angry at this dude. And they like, hey man, excuse me. And they were, checking out to see if I'm in mortal danger right now. Right. And he's like, who did it? Who did it? And so I closed my eyes and leaned back. I swear to God. I swear on my mother's life. Fully conscious, fully fucking fine, other than these scratches and adrenaline through the roof. I don't feel no pain. And I leaned back and I just quietly just left. Just very quietly, and they responded like, "Oh my God, he's crashing!" And so they start trying to take care of me. I'm listening to this whole thing happen, and that was how the investigator ran out the room. And so everybody ran with that. X almost died. Like, nigga, whatever. Cause if that make people feel better, then good for them.
Yo, at what point in time? Because there were 5 people involved in the initial incident that led you to go to prison. Anytime somebody loses a life, right?
Right.
There's at what point in time do you face that and kind of come to peace? Like you said, you had empathy. You eventually ended up gaining empathy for what happened. Like
myself as a child.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, like it was a crime that had a victim. So at what point in time did you kind of like come to terms with the incident that night that changed your life forever?
I think I came to terms with that around 2002. In that window where, 02, I don't know how old I was by then. Maybe I hit 30 in 04. So yeah, I'm 28. So I'm old enough to have had that brain thing happen. And I'm old enough to know it happened because life doesn't look the same.
Right.
Colors don't look the same. Motherfuckers.
Yeah, once you hit a certain age, it's like you put a new pair of glasses on, you see the whole world different.
It really is. And I felt like going from 25 to 30 and then going from 30 to 35, 35 to 40, I've had these stages where life looked different. And so I had trying to reconcile that within myself. I did a total of 9 years in solitary confinement over making music, getting locked up 3 years here, 2 years here, bus therapy, transferring me. I get off the bus.
And that's when it's just you and your thoughts.
It's just you and your thoughts.
Yeah.
When the door closes, I can hear, so like I'm in the hole at Corcoran, I'm in the SHU. And so I'm in the ASU, I'm in what they call Z unit. And there's a window that's just a slice. Right? Mm-hmm. It's a slice, a rectangle. It's standing up, and you go look out that window, and there's a white wall. And that's it, left and right. That's it. And I got another one of those slits in the roof, and every now and then I see the sun pass by. And Magneto shit.
Right.
And so I'm in this room, and the bed is a concrete slab built out of the wall, like a cave. They built out of concrete, and it has a mattress on it. And then the wall itself where the sink is steel, and you have a sink and a toilet, and that was me in that room.
9 years.
And mail and some books. You know what I mean? And so I'm listening to people crack. I can hear the dude down there that can't take it no more. And I hear them running down there to go in. They got to come
Sure
there.
he didn't kill himself. Or
They
something.
got to come with the shield and the masks on and open his door and go wrestle him. And maybe he smears shit all over his body and water all on the floor.
Just trying to get out.
Slippery. And they fighting. I can hear him down there. And next thing you know, they got him on Cinequan. He running around drooling. You know what I mean? So I can see the options. So the options were, I'm waking up in the morning. I'm going to say a prayer. I'm going to work out. I'm going to drink my coffee. I'm going to work out. I got my little pack of coffee, little steak coffee pack. And I'm going to work out. I'm going to take a bird bath. I'm going to clean up my mess. I'm going to get my reading in. I'm going to finish my reading. I'm going to write my letters. I finish that. I'm going to write me some songs. I finish that. I'm going to do some reading and go to sleep. And I'm going to do this. This is
just that was your routine, like a machine.
And I'm going to put in what I want to put in. So I started reading anything that had to do with Solomon, anything that had to do with Jesus, anything that had to do with Muhammad, anything that had to do with Buddha, anything that had to do with like John F. Kennedy, RFK, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. I'm constructing a father figure for myself.
Wow.
Out of historical figures and quotes and Winston Churchill, the most G. But what the fuck was wrong with Hitler? If was something wrong with Hitler, was he right?
Right.
Or was he tripping? I read Mein Kampf.
Right.
I read it.
Right.
Like, I want to know if I think you was tripping. Like, oh, yeah, my nigga was tripping.
Right.
My nigga was tripping a little bit. But I wanted to know. I wanted to understand historical figures. The Prince, Niccolo Machiavelli, everything that I could get my hands on. The Plato's Cave, the Socratic Method, fucking Malcolm Gladwell. When the Roots dropped The Tipping Point, like I did a deep dive. I went in the rabbit hole.
Right.
The Tipping Point. Oh, Malcolm Gladwell. Like, who the fuck's Malcolm Gladwell? What else did he write? And Freakonomics. I went from Freakonomics and got to Tipping Point, and then I got to Outliers, and Outliers changed my fucking life when I read that book.
So like being in the hole, like that's the approach people should take, but the other approach is you can't take it, and then you end up going crazy to try to get out to maybe go to the fucking, like if you end up
psych ward.
Yeah, because at least you're getting out.
Yeah, at
right?
least you got your pudding and you take your little pills and it's better than that. Maybe, I guess. I don't know. I didn't want nothing to do with it. I felt like they couldn't have my brain. Dr. Markle, I read what he wrote about surviving a concentration camp and what he had, that the last thing he had left when he didn't know if he was getting gassed tomorrow, all he could do is control what was going on here and here. That was it.
Damn.
And that's how I felt. Like I'm in the corner and I'm not going under the bed. So we got to fight if you keep coming this way. We're going to have to fight. I'm not going under the bed. You know, and it's a steel slab. You can't go under the bed anyway. So like it's a concrete slab. So that was my philosophy.
You and Brother Lynch, man, obviously you guys are tied together forever.
Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg of Northern California. Can
you give me an idea of, because Lynch ended up working with Strange, right?
He did.
I don't know if he still is or not, but he had signed with Strange. And was that kind of your introduction to Tech and Travis? And because when you got out, did you already have a situation figured out with Strange Music?
So while I was still incarcerated, and this will bring us to a couple people we mentioned before, I was still incarcerated making music, and Brian Shafton actually ended up putting out music for me while I was incarcerated. So Brian Shafton gave me a deal in 2011. Okay. Like, I'm coming right off of this shit, because I did get my songs recorded and out. Right. So I'm coming right off of this big old fight, and which was the police sent them niggas at me. Right. So I get out because I put the sergeant in the corner of the earth. So I come from that to, I get to High Desert, which at the time was the most dangerous yard. So I get my reward for not getting in trouble because I was attacked, right? I didn't even got to say shit. It's all this happened on camera. Right. And think about this, an attempted murder. If the speculation's a trip. So anybody that's a gangster that been through some gangster shit, we just gonna do it like this, kid. An attempted murder on a prison yard. That'd be like an apartment complex that
With
has
cameras.
There's cameras everywhere, but these cops have also been on this yard with all of us for 7 years.
Right.
5 years at a time.
Right.
Right? We know who everybody
You know all
is.
these guys, yeah, by name, yeah. I see you guys every fucking day, yeah.
Yeah, I know the motherfuckers at my gym now.
Right.
It's only been 2 years, but I know
Right.
who that is. I know
Yeah.
Bruce. I know Miss Tina.
Right.
Hi, good morning, Miss Tina. Hi, Honore. Right. Same thing. So on camera, located weapons. They didn't disappear. Cops identify everybody, know all parties involved, and attempted murder. And there's no court case.
That shit's crazy.
No court case. Kings County, right? Coalinga, California, there's no court case. Not one person ended up in court because you have an uncooperative victim, right? Victim. So it don't matter if you won. So I did 9 months locked up for 9 months as a result of that for escalating to the point of not being a victim. That's what they were trying to do to me.
So because you defended yourself, you no longer became a victim, and because you weren't going to necessarily cooperate to the extent they wanted to, it didn't become a case.
I wasn't enough of a victim. I defended myself too well. So when your choices are to die,
right,
or win, which is to live.
Yeah,
it's literally a life and death thing that happened in front of everybody.
They would have maybe.
Yeah, I had to. You want me to die out here?
Hey, but think about how many times that happens in prison, where just that kind of shit just gets swept under the rug, and like people don't have justice, and there's family members out here who want to know what happened to their fucking kid, and
I saw a lot of that.
Yeah, and then it's like it doesn't really matter because they look at you as second class fucking citizens at this point, and you're never going to get your true justice for that family.
It's a difficult environment to have empathy for.
Right.
So to get people to realize that if you're too defiant and the cops want you to die because the existence of a Neo out here, there's somebody walking around we can't fucking punish.
Right.
We can't stop him from making music. We write him up as a slap on the wrist.
Right.
We can't take his money. He's going to visits. He's got his lawyers. He's like, what the fuck do you do? Right? Well, we're going to get him whacked. We're going to whack him. We're going to smut you up, accuse you of a bunch of shit. How'd he get away with recording that album? And people who can't read the rules, who can't even really understand, are easy to manipulate.
For sure.
Because if he did, how did he get away with that? Well, because there's no rule, dumbass. It's not against the rules. But I'm not explaining that to motherfuckers who come up to me because, again, I'm a black male who comes from a Crip background. I don't got to explain myself to no motherfucker that ain't from what I'm from.
Right.
I don't owe you no fucking explanation. And if I did give you an explanation, you want to know how I got it in here? You want to know how I did whatever? What do you want to know that for?
Right.
And who the fuck are you?
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm big on that. I can go find out. Oh, nigga, you done told on all your homies. Like, nigga, I'm not telling you how
That's
I
all
did
public
shit.
record, yeah.
Yeah, I would have gave somebody some game. Hey, man, you want to do your music? I respect it. I've done that before where somebody was bussing and I see them and I'll be like, hey, check it out, homie. And I'll pull somebody
Were
to
you
the
ever locked
side.
up with any other artists who ended up kind of getting out and doing something?
Well, I mean, Razcast was there. You know, me and I remember writing back and forth to Flesh and Bone.
Shout to Flesh, yeah.
Man, Stack a good dude.
Yeah.
And so, like, me and Stack, we both, I started going to Islamic services. I started going to Juma.
Right.
And doing Ramadan. And so was Flesh. And so we both had took Shahada, which is a part of my story I never really told. So, like, a part of what changed for me was getting into Islam, really digging into Islam.
Well, and like you kind of dug into every religion,
all
being
of them.
in the hole. Yeah,
I dug into all of them and because I really did. I did dig into all of them.
Yeah, as you should.
But I landed in a place of I kind of like Tawheed. I like monotheism. I like the concept of this particular construct. So I hung out there. The point of study and all that stuff was to find somewhere to hang out. And I just thought, the earliest, oldest philosophy that I could find, that was what I wanted to rock with. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I kind of landed there. But yeah, we used to give it, get a letter to the imam and, take it over there. And they were like, here, man, It was beautiful to be in
But-
touch with everybody like that. But like dope ass people, the dopest rappers I ever met in prison never got out. Like there was a cat from Compton. There's a cat from Compton. Fuck was cuz name. There's a cat from Compton who I think was arguably the dopest rapper I ever ran into. Like I think he was doper than niggas on the streets. Like
Right.
that if motherfuckers had heard him, and cause we go back and forth. He spit a rhyme. Everybody that thought they could rap was gonna be in my
rap
face
with
at
you,
some
yeah.
point. I was a battle rapper, like you had to be. And so yeah, I ran into a lot of motherfuckers with a lot of talent, but not necessarily who came home and did nothing with it. Really.
Can you talk about just like how important you and Lynch's friendship has been to just
Yeah.
everything, man? Like I'm sure you know.
Yeah, that's my brother. I love Lynch. So what? I'm 15, 16. So December 17th, 1990, excuse me. We have a party for my grandmother's death day. And my cousin Nicole brings 6 with her. And 6 and Lynch and all of them were older than me. So, we were trafficking in different circles. I would come up to fuck with the big homies and go back into what I was doing. And Lynch was, into hip hop. That nigga was with the dancing and
Right.
the flipping and the busting rhymes, but he from Tamasharon and Kirkway. Like, he from the Gardens. He was outside. But he was outside doing some dope shit while we was doing dumb shit. And so, like, me and Bo are, like, I say, Ozone. But they was like Ozone and Turbo, and me and Bo was like O-Dog and Kane.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And so 6 showed up, and I had all my rhymes on the walls, thumbtacked and sheet protectors and shit. Write a new one, put it on the wall, read them, and I would just read my rhymes. That was kind of a thing for me. I kind of still tape a paper to the wall and just do free form writing and shit. And so 6 is like, who wrote this shit? And it was like, it's my shit. And I've been working with DJ Tantrum, Percy Hunter from Flat Dog Crip. And so me and Percy was working on what ultimately would become the first half of Psychoactive and the entire Niggas in Black EP that I did. And 6 was like, oh, nah, man, tomorrow I'm going to bring my brother over. And the Lynch was like, had a name, Ice Cold. His hip-hop name was Ice Cold.
Right.
And 6's was Strobe Light. Them niggas was tickers. And so he bring him over. We get there, and I'm like, it's Kevin, nigga. It's Kevin, man. You know what I mean? So I know, but Lynch, we look at Lynch like, oh, that nigga was talented out there on some mic. He was our little Michael Jackson outside. Right. And so we bust rhymes all night, and they like, man, if you could pay for your studio time, we'll put you in a real studio. So I'm like, hell yeah. I went to the big homies and told them what I wanted to do. I talked to Donkey Kong from PJ Watts. Shout out to my niggas from PJ. Donkey Kong gave me, he hooked me up. I went to my big homie Ken, Big Ken Martin, BK. He hooked me up, and I grind. I was slanging on in the 50s, slanging in the Cadillac apartments, slanging in the flats, and I paid for my studio time. And what we would do is, like, I'll get 6 hours and I'll do 4 hours, and Lynch would help us. We had all my samples, like almost everything came from Percy. And then Lynch will be like, hey, we should do this or we should do that. But Lynch gave us the process. He sat there in the engineering chair with the engineer next to him and kind of made sure everything, he Dr. Dre'd my shit. You know what I mean? And so the difference is I came out first because of I had access to money and I'm selling dope and I was on some gangster shit. So I really was the baby, but I was just moving faster than everybody. And then Bo came home while I was like halfway through Psychoactive. So like Bo's first times in a real studio was with me.
Crazy.
Going in there to work with me, work with Lynch. And Lynch was right there. So boom. I end up going to Juvenile Hall on a joyride. I'm joyriding. We was going to go clap some shit up. And we got pulled over. So I got a joyride. The homie got a joyride. The homie took a pistol. And the homie got a GTA. Boom. I spent a weekend in Juvenile Hall. And my mama come and get me Monday. And during that weekend, Big Meek actually was in Juvenile Hall with me. And Big Meek is like, got the Cutlass. He got the Stang. He got
and
the
this is the guy
Malley.
who helped finance what Cedric was doing.
Right. And he's Sebo's little brother.
Okay.
And so, like, I'm on 23rd Street in Babette in the Gardens, which is really a red street. It's like going toward the blood side. And 24th Street right next to it, right? So I'm slanging coke at Tracy Butler house, and Meek is right next door. I used to see him all the time, but I always thought this nigga was a grown ass man.
Right.
So I found out he was a kid when I went to juvenile hall, and the nigga was in there, and I was rapping and shit. So people don't know who X-Rated is because my cover was drawn by Brother Lynch. And it was like, that wasn't even my name. I had just said it in a line in a rap, and people just started calling me X-Rated, like how Scarface got his name. And then Lynch was like, nah, I got to be R-A-I-D-E-D. And he drew my first logo and drew my first cover. So that shit is on consignment in Tower Records. I'm in juvenile hall and I'm spitting rhymes and shit. And it's like, nigga, you X-Rated? I was like, yeah. He was like, nigga, this what we got to do, blah, blah, blah. So Meek had been looking for me. So I go home and I, on a humbug, reach out to Meek. We end up rolling all over the town, me and my Metaview brother.
Right.
And he started paying for every motherfucking thing. And then, he kind of put us with Cedric. So we was in the thick of it by the time. I literally had 10 out of 11 songs for Psychoactive done the day we met with Cedric.
Wow.
So I made one song. I made That Sickness, the last song on the album, was the only song left. And we did the first 6 by ourselves and Lynch got involved. And then the next 5 happened with Meek and Lynch and all the way involved. And that was how we ended up taking that shit to Cedric. But
hey, we're about to kick off another interview brought to you by Hardin. That's right. If you're in Vegas, it's the #1 dispensary in the country, the craziest selection of premium cannabis. And all you got to do is shoot them a follow, Hardin_Las Vegas, HardinLasVegas.com. When you're in Vegas, tell them I sent you. Hey, real quick, want to tell you about our family at Odd Socks, baby. That's right. They've been our longest running sponsor. They're our family. They make the most comfortable socks in the world. Whatever you're into, man, you see the Scarface. I got Coca-Cola, Street Fighter, SpongeBob. These are SpongeBob underwear. By the way, their boxers are so comfortable, y'all. Like, listen. I need y'all to save 20% off at checkout right now. Just go to oddsocksofficial.com. Use that promo code Bootleg. ASAP. Get you some draws. Get you the most comfortable socks in the world. Ghostbusters, Funyuns, whatever you need, they got it. Oddsocksofficial.com. Promo code Bootleg. Save 20% off. Let's jump back into this interview. So when you get locked up, Lynch is still with you throughout the whole...
Yeah, he rapped the whole time. Like... We just always was together. Musically, when we came for 24 Deep, Lynch called, had me do the verses and shit. I called Lynch rather. He had me do the little part of a verse on the answering machine. He said my name everywhere. He deified me really in hip hop. Sure. And then I go from that to Season of the Sickness. So Season of the Sickness was actually the name of my Exorcist album. See, I had been working on what would be, I was going from Psychoactive to Season of the Sickness. That was my plan. And when I got locked up, I think like I was dead, really. I was gone. It's like this nigga's facing the death penalty.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm gone.
By all counts, your life's over.
And Exorcist is like this mythological thing that nobody believes is real. You know what I mean? And so... I'm like, or what, Season of the Sickness. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do Season of the Sickness, blah, blah, blah. I'm talking to Cedric. I'm kind of telling Lynch. I'm blessing rhymes on the phone with Lynch and shit. And so before I get the game for Mac Dre and I start recording what got renamed The Exorcist, they titled Lynch's album Season of the Sickness. And so that is how that happened. But that was 100% the name of what people now know as Exorcist.
I'm wondering, when you guys was there like a conscious effort to make sure that the content was extremely dark and edgy and like kind of crazy at times?
Yeah, I think that me as an MC initially, we picking all that up. Can we be quiet, please?
It's fine.
My bad.
No, you're good.
So you end up in a circumstance where, where were we at? The Season of the Sickness, the conscious effort to make crazy shit. So we end up doing where I have NWA, Straight Outta Compton, and NWA Niggas for Life, and they started getting a little extreme.
For sure.
To Kill a Hooker, To Kill a Prostitute. Eazy-E was a little extreme.
Oh, for sure.
And then the Ghetto Boys was hella extreme.
Yeah, like Mind Playing Tricks on Me was like a real dark record, low key, you know what I mean?
Grip It on that other level was a dark album.
Sure.
The entire album was tricky. And so you had Chucky, you had all of that going on. And so we end up in a circumstance where we were influenced by that. You know, and I know about Esham. I know about
Shout out to Esham, yeah.
Gangsta Nip. You know, it's people doing shit, and so we kind of mixing this gang banging shit with that crazy shit, and that was deliberate. So me and Lynch kind of got into this thing, me, him, and Six, of who could say the wildest shit. It just was really us amongst ourselves. Cause you know, the nigga nuts and guts. I came up with that, and Lynch just was like, he came up with this baby killer shit, and so we kind of just
eating humans and shit.
Yeah, Lynch did that.
Yeah. What was the you better pray when you see me put that down? Yeah, we're talking about feed this kid someone else's. Yeah, it's fucking wild.
Yeah. So yeah, we did, and I think that's where the fracture happened, where Lynch kept going extreme, and I, maybe because of my circumstances, went into some gangster shit.
Yeah, because you also like couldn't be talking about certain shit, and then if someone in jail hears your shit, be like, "Yo, you on that crazy shit, dog?" Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I wasn't impacted by that. I think we diverted in intent. I think because I was writing fantastical songs all the way up until we got to Deuce Father Life.
got it.
So I was still in that psychology, but when it got to the point of start my trial, it was a sober thing. I got splashed with a cold bucket of water. So now that's where I show up as an individual. So now Deuce Father Life is the first Honoré Brown song. That's the first song I wrote without a character.
Well, you weren't in character.
When I wasn't in a character, even if it was informed by my life experiences in the streets, it still was.
For sure.
You know what I mean? So Deuce Father Life happened, then I write Deadly Game, then I write Misanthropy, then I write Land of the Lost. You know what I mean? I started going in a different, I became more, and Scarface did this too, and that helped me.
Like Scarface became Brad Jordan.
Yeah, he moved more. He merged Brad Jordan and Scarface.
Right. And then also, like, what he started to do on his own was very different than what you would hear with the Ghetto Boys.
Exactly.
For sure.
And I was inspired by that as an MC.
Right.
Because I want to know, where am I going, you know? And I'm looking at Ice Cube. I'm looking at Scarface. Here comes Tupac. Here's E40. You got Spice One. I'm looking at everybody. And I'm like, what am I doing? You know? And I wanted to be dope as fuck, and the ingredients to that to me was I got to start telling some of this shit that's the truth.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Shit I'm going through, the shit that's on my brain.
Yeah, and I moved myself and other people into that direction. You know, Bo was always, because of YA, having issues with the police. He always had a bit of a militant thing going. You know, he was super Ice Cube influenced. And so he had a little bit of that militant thing going. And then politics popped into my music because I was in a political pressure cooker.
Also, you're reading a lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
And under attack by the media, and watching Time Warner, watching all these cultural things and feeling stuff about it. And it started pouring into my music. And that was where me and Lynch that went in different directions.
Musically, yeah.
Yeah,
for
philosophically.
Sure. No, for sure.
Yeah.
You get out, you end up, it's crazy that your first Strange album was last year, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. How big of a moment was it for you because N9ne is somebody who was probably just starting to get active when you went to prison. Because he was coming out to LA doing the Wake Up show. I want to say, what was the soundtrack he was on, Richie?
Gang Related. 97.
Yeah.
Questions.
Yeah, exactly. And then this strange music thing comes, and it's kind of like a new version of what like Black Market was like in the early 90s, right?
That's it, yeah.
And then he ends up kind of becoming like not kind of, quite literally like changing the game for independent artists and the biggest independent rapper ever.
Oh, mama.
How like aware and hip are you to what Tech's doing? I'm sure you're hearing about it through Brian or through Brother Lynch. Like,
yeah.
But to get out, connect with him, like how aware were you of the strange music, I guess, legacy that was being built while you were incarcerated?
I watched the whole thing happen. I watched all of that. I watched the when he popped up with devastatingly with Questions. He had already been through the Quest thing, you know, different groups he was a part of earlier.
It was Angelic, and that's the whole era, and like almost like a similar thing where like we've seen Tech kind of grow from being like the crazy guy with the face paint, and then like, you know, kind of like he's kind of brought us into like who he is a lot more over the years. So
yeah, even while I was there, when I left Black Market, I would have wanted to be as Strange. I remember having an interaction with Dave Weiner in like 2009 or 2010. I don't think I forgave him for that until like 2019 or 2018, where he essentially said that minus being able to tour and not being able to do videos, that my music coming out on Strange Music wouldn't have been. He couldn't see the potential value in that, but that he saw in terms of this had nothing to do with dopeness, but had something to do with the inability to finish it, which was true. You know, from a fantastical place in there, you don't know what you don't know,
Right.
and how much goes into this. And that was big boy shit. I think what I was doing was to keep my sanity. I was writing and making music to keep my sanity. Is almost cute looking back on it now. It's shit I wish I never recorded,
Right.
because I could record them now.
Yeah.
I got 20-year-old song on A Prayer in Hell, my last album, that is one of the dopest songs on there.
Crazy.
That's some shit I wrote in '02.
Crazy.
It's like 2 songs on there from 2002 and 2003, The Life Sentences and To Whom It May Concern. And it's like, I wish I had held on to that. But at the time, Dave Weiner his response to us was he didn't think that would be something that we could start the game but couldn't finish it.
Yeah, because the touring aspect is so important to their business.
Being in that machine now, I understand exactly that was the literal truth at the time. I think Dave was responsible for Strange Music West. He was working right under Trav as the man making the decisions at Strange Music at the time regarding, anything that was happening mostly with the West Coast artists. And so Brian Shafton, like 2 years later, gives me the deal with RBC. And I drop some music and stuff, and I'm paying attention to Tech and Trav. I can see everything. It's my business. I have my little football team, and I'm watching the bigger football teams, and
do you get access to YouTube and like XXL and all that shit in there?
Yeah, we get XXL. We had all the magazines, so I could see Murder Dog. I'm 2011. Me and Tech are on the cover of the Murder Dog together. So he has a Murder Dog magazine in his house with my face on it next to his.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it was like that. I was aware. We were all aware of each other, and we know who's dope. Mm-hmm. So they knew I was dope. And then I come home, and I think the June 11th, 2021, I fly to Kansas City, me and Lynch, and it really started with a dispute between Lynch and Tech that ended up kind of turning into a little bit of back and forth a little bit. And people got too excited about it. I didn't like it. I got a habit of jumping in front of bullets for Lynch. And I just was like, I feel like everybody need to just mind their business. And if you got pom-poms, you cheering for potential Lynch and N9ne beef, then I'm not fucking with you no more. So I'm watching. I'm looking at all of y'all. If y'all let them two handle their business and stay out of it. Because everybody wanted to all of a sudden pile in on Lynch. And I'm like, I take phase on behalf of Lynch. My entire career, I've always done it. I've always been the one either saying, hey, man, that's my brother. You know what I mean? They can't have Kev.
Right.
Lynch ain't trying to bother nobody, and ain't nobody about to be bothering him. We not going for that. And so it just kind of, I did that, and Tex saw it, and he was like, hey, I appreciate that, bruh, and we going to see each other, man. Much love. And I was like, all right, I just acknowledged him like, I feel you, and thank you, and blah, blah, blah. And so I got Lynch a bag to go to KC. I got a decent bag. We flew out. My brother Knox with me, Eric. We all fly out there. And me and Lynch, we go to the show. My phone started blowing up. People like, man, Tech is trying to get a hold of you. Ironically, all these Crips, I call them N9ne's Crips. Now I know about N9ne's Crips. People would underestimate that. N9ne got all these Crips and Bloods that fuck with him for real. And so I'm like, who the fuck is, man, you going to the barbecue? There's the Crips throwing the barbecue. You here? And Tech want to know because he going to pull up. And I was like, I don't know. I'm like, tell him to call me or something or whatever. I don't even believe this shit. So I'm in my suite. I keep doing what I'm doing. And then Triz called me. And I love Triz. So I was like, what's up, bro? He's like, where you going to eat? And I was like, I'm about to hit this place, blah, 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 in a little while. And Trish like, cool, I'm going to pull up at 15, Tech will be there in 30. I was like, all right. So we all mob over there. We sitting down chilling, and Trish walked through the door, and then boom, Tech walked up in that motherfucker. And he gave me a hug. He said, I told you I was going to see you. Gave me a hug. We sat down, had a meal, chopped it up, vibed out, spit some bars, and just, had fun, had a good night. And he excused himself, and he popped back, and I could hear him walking up like, yeah, man, really good people, really good energy, man. And I just think you should meet him. And he hands me the phone, and it was Travis. And Trav's like, "What you doing Monday, man?" And I was like, "Shit, whatever you want me to be doing Monday, you know," because we were getting the fuck out of
Yeah,
there.
you're
We
leaving
were,
town, yeah.
we were got the
Show's
bag.
over, yeah,
we were
yeah.
like,
Time to go home.
We're going to Vegas.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was like, "All right." So Monday we changed our flights and shit and kicked it that weekend. And that weekend changed my life, man. I met the mother of both my children that weekend.
Wow.
I met Tech N9ne. Because Trav wants us to come Monday, I actually am running around Kansas City. I meet the mother of my children. I go to that meeting with Travis, blows my mind. We spent 4 hours touring Strange Music and still didn't see it all.
No, for
so
sure,
to put that in perspective, he took us on a tour of the facility. It took 4 hours and we still didn't see all of the buildings.
Right.
Still, it's that big. And so we're all like, okay, all right, you know, and jump on a plane, go back to Vegas. Like, man, this is something to think about. And Tech came to Vegas, flew out to see me. Well, he really was doing him in Vegas, but the homie started calling me. This nigga, so people starting to see pictures and shit of me and Tech together. And so this nigga's walking through the mall with this girl, and my phone started blowing up. People like, man, your boy just walking around the mall out here, like, you know, and we don't, but motherfuckers don't know what to do. What should we do? I was like, just make sure he's straight. So I called Tech, was like, hey, man, but like, it's the 5th time somebody told me you was walking around the mall. If niggas could call me 100 times, they could call niggas that shouldn't be called. So like, the homies just gonna follow you around the mall. So if you see some niggas, they with me, and it's good. And he was like, okay. He's like, I was wondering about that, man. These Crip niggas kept looking at
Vegas?
me. Yeah, he was in Vegas. And so the homies stayed with him, and you know, we just kind of hung out on their phones, minding their business while he shopped with his girl and got him out of there. And then I ended up pulling up at the Aria. We hung out, had a great meal, and you know, I did some shit for his lady's birthday. I go back, he goes out, Trav flies in. Tech calls me, hey man, my partner's coming to Vegas to do some business, but he's there to see you. He's like, I don't care what he says. Travis came to Vegas to see you, bro.
Right.
He's like, tell him what you need. Tell him how you need it. Let's get this done. I need you with me. I was like, all right, cool. So sure enough, Trav lands. He comes in my building. He sits down, talks to my business partners. I put him with the city manager, the deputy city manager, to talk about a few things that we doing in Vegas. And we had all kind of shit going on. And so Trav left all of that feeling like, I love what you're doing. He talked to me. He told me, I love what you're doing, and you're going to pull this off, but it's going to take you longer than it needs to. I want to fast forward you. I want to hit fast forward for you. So all right, cool. Boom. Tech send me a song. I get other artists send me songs. I end up getting the N9ne tour, and Trav sat me down. Boom, boom, signed my deal. You know, he went back and forth with the lawyer. Boom, got my contract the way it needed to be. Went, did the N9ne tour, got my chain at Red Rocks in front of 10,000 people, man.
Crazy.
On a stage, Michael Jackson been on the Beatles, you know?
Yeah, one of the most legendary venues in the world.
Insane. So, like, all of that happened. And, yeah, it's just been a beautiful thing. So that weekend in, like, the 12th of June, 21, I end up taking Lynch to a meeting. So we went to Jack Stacks, and we had a big old table, and all these people showed up. And so come to find out, you know, Tech's son is a huge X-Rated and Brother Lynch fan. We're his favorite rappers.
Crazy.
It's nuts. So Tech's son came, other members of his family, we all broke bread. I'm on Bro Knox and Eric, all of them with me. And Lynch and Tech got to discuss they shit. You know what I mean? Niggas gave each other a hug, said they loved each other, and you know, and that was how we resolved that. And Tech just really respected that shit. He was like, man, that was some dope ass shit. He's like, I really appreciate that. And we just been thugging it out on some G shit ever since. I love him. I love Tech N9ne. I ain't gonna lie. That's my dog.
Great guy.
Man, that's my dude.
Yeah.
I fuck with him, and I fuck with Travis the long way. Trav, to me, is a genius. I've been in the room with a lot of people, you know, who think well, and this motherfucker is a genius. Dave Weiner's a genius, you know, Brian Shafton.
Right.
This group of people who all kind of circulate each other, Mark off, and, you know, it's a bunch of them. And there is some brilliance involved in that shit, and I just marvel at it. And Travis stood on 10 toes about me, and I really appreciate that about him. And my relationship with Tech is phenomenal, and I love it, man.
I want to talk about Sack for a sec, because
Hey.
I have a great relationship with Mozzy, who I know has had friction with certain artists.
He has.
Over the years. I think he might have friction with Brother Lynch at a certain point in time. I know he had some friction with Sibo.
Yeah, I put that. I didn't allow that. The Lynch thing, I was like, nah, man. You know, I talked to Lynch. And
Well, I know Mozzy to be like a great guy, and he's got a great team like Dave O, and you know, he's one of the new faces of the West Coast, and he's obviously a very talented guy. Have you guys had any opportunity to conversate or?
We've had interactions. I sent him. I remember after that thing happened where it was like I think the comment was, I'm funking with Sibo. I'm funking with a Brother Lynch. I'm funking with an X-rated. And, you know, it pissed some people off. It ruffled some feathers that he worded it that way. And that was kind of me and Sibo's disagreement that we ended up having, was really over the fact that I stood on what I believed in regard to what Mozzy was trying to say.
Well, yeah, and that also, like, that's how he talks. Like, I don't think that was meant in a disrespectful way.
It was not meant in a disrespectful way, in my humble opinion. And I remember saying, like, on Facebook, I jumped on Facebook. I'm in the pen, but I go on Facebook and say, hey, man, is it possible for me to be funking with a kid who might have been 5 when I left the streets, if he was alive at all?
Right.
We've never been on a yard. So can it be, how is it possible I'm funking? Or was it him, if he prefaced this statement with, just like I gotta respect what they did in their era, they gotta respect what I did in mine. So I felt like he was identifying a standard, because the question was essentially, why was he so dope? And his answer was, because we're dope. That was what he was fucking saying. That's how I took it.
Right.
And so when I said that, I know Mozzy, even with all his people and who could feel something about that, he reposted what I said and threw hundreds across it. I said, Mozzy know every word of Macaframalama. Mozzy's first album cover is honor, a tribute to my first album cover.
Right.
First time they saw him with the fingers to the head. What is that? It's
Have you guys met yet?
We haven't, man. We've just the DM exchange. You know, I told him what I thought about. I told him about how I was the most disrespectful rapper in the history of Sacramento.
Right.
So you have a blood-dominated city who had itself being represented by Crip rappers for
nationally,
internationally.
National identity, it was, hey, Sibo, X-rated, Brother Lynch,
N9ne, Looney Coleon. We were dominant,
right?
And I was super disrespectful in my music regard to other sets and the Psychoactive Exorcist. It was very much gangy, and then I got to Unforgiven, and I remember I had a conversation with a brother from Oak Park who told me, man, we love your music, X. If you would let us, man, we'll slap your shit. If you would let us. And so I was like, damn, so who is y'all new booty ass niggas? You know what I mean? I'm like, we're 24th Street Crip, but even blood niggas got dubs on my shit and stug niggas in the South Side and Slam X-rated local and they out riding. I started kind of allowing people to be able to bump my music if they wanted to. It was a deliberate thing. And so I dropped that on Mozzy. I just said, I feel like I didn't have anybody to tell me this, but a lot more people could be receptive to your music if you let them. And if you can not do these things, or if I could have not done those things, it would have done this for my career. And so that was really the last.
I think he's done a good job of doing that too recently.
Think so. Yeah, I think so.
Because I think, like, you know, that's one thing about him, like just knowing him as well as I do, just like his personal evolutions. I met him in 2017.
Right.
And it was like, he used to come to the radio station with like 50 dudes.
Yeah.
And now when he comes, he's got a tight crew. He's about his business. He stays out the way. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah,
man.
So I just think it would be dope to have you guys have some sort of do a song together, man.
It's inevitable. I think music is a secondary thing. I'm not opposed to that being an outcome of the other thing. But if it need to just be an organic dialogue or organic, because right now my whole neighborhood is united, all of it. We got some stuff we got to deal with, but me, Sibo, Lynch, Looney, Nutty are all together, and the Block Movement Project is gonna happen. That's happening, and so from the perspective of what's best for Sacramento. Like, come on, bro. We can't celebrate. A nigga brought a Grammy home. He brought a Grammy to Sacramento. You can't fake Goosebumps, bro. But like a nigga from where we from won a Super Bowl. Why we going? I gotta act like I don't think that's dope.
Right.
Like, get the fuck out of here. The Black Panther soundtrack was, to me, as a MC from my hometown and an OG from my hometown. That nigga being on the Black Panther soundtrack, I thought that was dope.
For sure.
Him having Kendrick acknowledge him while he just won fucking rap album of the year on the stage at the Grammys. I was watching that with a burrito. And I was like, oh shit. Like, I thought that was dope.
Right.
This is what the fuck are we doing?
Right.
A bunch of rappers rapping for each other in the hood? Or are we trying to penetrate the Pantheon? Are we trying to get to Mount Rushmore? Are we trying to get to Mount Olympus? I just had Rakim post my shit. Right? Fuck we doing? And so I feel like if we can't get to the point of just even being able to say that human being from Sacramento, California, just did some shit for us. That happened really for us. That was that Sacramento just smacked some hip hop shit. We just did some milestone type shit.
Right.
I think that gotta be celebrated, and I think politics prevent a lot of things from being celebrated that should be
all over
celebrated.
California.
Indeed, but especially in Sacramento. And Cedric Singleton had a relationship, and I don't. It's not for me to say what their relationship continues to be, but from what Cedric has communicated to me, he loves Mozzy. So for Cedric, the potential of, like, Cedric was the first one. Like, hey man, I don't want you doing none of that. And he told me, that's my baby boy, man. Just like Cedric runs Oak Park. He not runs Oak Park, but he came from Oak Park. You know what I mean? He runs Red. And if he defaults and you say it's smoke, and you look around, see who gonna pop up for Cedric, it's gonna be
guys in red. Yeah.
It's gonna be a lot of Oak Park.
Right.
And it's gonna be a lot of I'm gonna be there. Right. I'm gonna care. And so we share a godfather. It's like Cedric's our Jay Prince in a way. You know what I mean? He created him and Meek. Meek is our Harry O. Right. Cedric's our Suge Knight. You know?
Right.
So it's like, we not gonna play about that. The OG heart would be broken if I was on some fuck shit in relation to Mozzy. So I think it got played the way it got played. I've seen recent interviews where Bo talked to court about, how he felt. Like, he just felt like it was a little bit too much and not enough respect involved in it. Everybody got to speak for themselves. But what I think is the healthiest thing for Sacramento, California, and the healthiest thing for the kids watching right now, hoping that they got an opportunity to get involved and be the next one to pop this shit off, that they know that they're going to get the support of the OGs. They got to know that. LA, Crips and Bloods get on stage October of 2011 and pass a torch to Kendrick Lamar, who cries on stage, and it's Snoop Dogg, Corrupt, The Game, DJ Quick, Dr. Dre. They did that in 2011.
And fast forward, the pop out happens. Everybody's on stage.
Man, we ain't understanding what the fuck we doing. That Willie Lynch shit, it's a lot of reasons why, bro. But I'm like, what are we doing, man? If I feel very strongly about that, what the fuck we doing, bro? Right. We gonna hate when and it's real reasons. It's real reasons. So in defense of even the homies, it's real reasons for bitterness on both sides. But it's like, if we gonna wait for if we gonna tit for tat it, this can't stop.
It'll never stop.
It can't stop. Because who scored last?
It's forever.
And some shit is like, some shit people just can't get over, ain't gonna never get over. But in terms of hip hop, what it means to the culture, I think a Sibo and a Mozzy having a conversation could be healthy for the culture. I think, myself, Brother Lynch Young, I think that this is the type of shit that I would like to organically occur. With input from other people, but I think it would be devastating to the psychology of people who are waiting for their turn. I think it would be beautiful to inform them that they could choose better pathways than we did, and be supported. Maybe we stand on the stage and we're giving the torch to the next motherfucker. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah, I think it's necessary.
Your new album, by the time this comes out, it'll be out.
Yeah.
The artwork's dope. A Sin in Heaven.
Thank you, man.
Your second album on Strange.
Yeah.
What's the oldest song on this album that you wrote? Is there anything old? Is there anything that you wrote in jail?
Wow, that's a good question. 24 tracks. What do I got on there? I don't think so.
So this is all new shit. New perspective. I mean, look, you have a whole new perspective, right?
Can't Hold Us Down. I wrote Can't Hold Us Down in the pen about 2009. I wrote that in 2009 in the pen. So my track three.
So track three
was
oh
written
nine
in 2009 in the penitentiary.
Can you kind of give me? I mean, you say 23 tracks.
24.
24 tracks.
Yeah.
That's damn near a double album in
24th
2024.
Street.
I see what you
It's
did there.
2024. X is the 24th letter. I did 24 years before
It's
I
all
knew
on
I was
purpose.
coming home.
Was this on purpose? Or?
First song is 2400. Yeah, for sure.
That's fire.
That.
What about this album? Because I feel like, putting out, this is your second album in a year almost, right? A year and a half?
Nah, it just feels that way because it's been nonstop. Like I did, me and Tech got cracking on N9ne, and then I had some splashes that happened.
What was the
bigger
fucking
songs.
music video you guys did that was like in the middle of the fucking sand?
That's the one where I found out I was off parole. Still right here.
That shit was crazy.
Yeah, it was a beautiful experience, man. That was the day I got off parole. We were filming March 1st, 2022. Me and Tech together making that video.
Crazy.
Yeah, so you got that big moment. That wasn't from an X-rated album. And now my album starts coming right behind Tech because I'm in the cycle where I'm almost always sandwiched between what Tech is doing.
Right.
And that's, I don't know if that's some shit him and Travis plotted on, which I would think that none of this shit is an accident.
Right.
So, but here comes Tech, and they kind of always have me right behind that. So it's like race cars, and I'm in his drag. You know what I mean? No Diddy. I'm in his tailwind. And so you got Still Right Here. You get to my album Stratosphere with me and Tech, and then here's Tech coming back on Bliss, and I got Knock with him and Joyner Lucas and Conway,
right.
And then my album drops. You know what I mean? And then here comes Tech on Nut House, and I'm on there. And then here comes my first single. Here comes Roll Call for Collabos. I'm on there, 2.5 million views, 2 million streams. Here comes my second single, King Crook, Ras Kass. Here comes another Tech single. I'm on there. Tech's Collabos album drop. I got 3 songs on there. Rakim drops.
You're on there.
And then here comes my album. So yeah, it's like I never, even though it's just one album in that calendar year, because we're over a year since my last album came out, June 2nd of 23. And but I just was never not there. I've been there the whole time.
Would you it feels like your life story should be a Netflix show or a movie or something. I mean, I think you need to write a book. I'm sure you've probably started. I feel like if you're in jail long enough, you've started to write a book.
Yeah, you got that. I like that twinkle in your eye. He's like, I feel like I got to know you real quick.
I'm like, I feel like you got at least half a book finished somewhere.
I actually have 3. So I broke my autobiography into 3 parts. And so there's the life all the way up until I think it was, where did I stop? 2002. And then there's 2002 to 2012. And then there was 2012. And I didn't know where the fuck to end. And I found out about Senate Bill 260, and I was like, it's time for me I put that stuff away, and I started working on music still, but mostly was focused on getting out. So I spent 6 years, basically 4 years, the equivalent of a college education, learning about what to do at board and how to deal with board. And then 2 years in addition to that to get out. And that's how you get that 24 years of me finding out I knew I was going home. So I went from hopelessness to hope to maybe to thinking to believing I was getting out to 2020 where I knew
it was happening.
I knew I was going home.
We've politically, I'm certainly in the middle. I don't know who I'm voting for, to be honest. But there is this narrative that Kamala Harris locked up a lot of people in California.
Yeah.
But she also co-sponsored the bill that freed you.
Her name is in Senate Bill 260. And then as Attorney General, she could have fought that. And so it's the Democratic Party pushing it. People don't think that she had a hand in that, and that the Attorney General just was like, oh, okay, they're going to let all the juveniles with life out, and didn't defend it, didn't fight that at all, just like let it come and go.
Well, I'm just curious, like from your perspective, somebody who's like well-versed in the law and like obviously did a ton of research on what was going on politically in California that would affect people getting freed or going in. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like the hell she gets for the amount of people she quote unquote locked up is a fair a fair criticism, or do you feel like it's overstated?
I think it's overstated. It's being exaggerated. Was she responsible for locking people up? She was the district attorney.
Well, everybody who's the district attorney is going to be responsible.
It didn't matter who you were.
That's the job, right? Yeah.
Right. And like, is the district attorney elected politician, district attorney in the courtroom on all these cases?
No.
Like, come on, man.
Right.
So with those of us who've been to court, know that the district attorney's not in here. It's an ADA or a DDA. Right. It's a deputy district attorney or assistant district attorney in the room prosecuting the case. The figurehead district attorney that's running this office doesn't necessarily have nothing to do with all of that. But like, far be it for me to defend a district attorney. They locking people to fuck up because that's what the fuck they do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like,
I mean, it's an economy too that comes with all of this.
There is
free labor. I mean, cheap labor, whatever you want to call
ugly.
it.
It's
once you start peeling the
slavery.
It is slavery. Yeah, I mean, it's what it is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's privatized prisons all over the country.
Yeah.
There's a lobby for that.
Yeah,
it's good business to put more people in prison.
Mm-hmm. And then you end up in a circumstance where I say, if I can look at myself and say I went from a 17-year-old gangbanger who thought it was perfectly appropriate to enter people's dwellings attempting to kill people, and then by the time I'm 25, I changed my life. And then at the age of 30 years old, I'm doing something completely different.
Right.
By 40, I got a AA degree. I'm majoring in psychology. I'm still locked up. I own my home, and I'm 10 million miles away from who that kid was.
Right.
And I think we like to just keep people static. So it's like, yeah, if look at the whole career and see where it started changing. Where did she start doing the programs for people who was coming home? Because there's plenty of information available that she was actually helping people come home successfully. So it's like, it's hard if you feel like the people stabbing you are the ones yelling at you to stop bleeding. It's hard to say thank you when they stop stabbing you.
Right.
Like, thank you so much. So it's hard to say thank you, Kamala Harris, for not stabbing us anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a lot of people hesitant. But the truth of the matter is that party came into power when Jerry Brown got elected, and we saw immediate change in that environment. The grievance system, how to file a complaint about it, something that you had going on that needed to be dealt with. Real stuff, family visits so you could go see your mother, the funeral arrangements, and you want to real things. The processes that got implemented from between 2011 to being sworn in to 2012, 2013.
You saw the real change.
We literally saw that shit like 48 hours. Like, go to sleep, wake up, and it was like, damn. And then go to sleep and wake up again and be like, what the fuck?
Right.
Different. The forms were different. The way the police training was different. The way they spoke to you was different. When the leadership changed, it fucking changed. We saw it.
Right.
And so, I don't know. I'm one of those people who understand that the people who caused the bleeding stop the bleedings. And, I feel like the Republican Party, Pete Wilson had control of California. Pete Wilson and them put in the three strikes law after the death of Polly Klaas. They had a 3% parole grant rate when they took over. I think out of 24 years to 4 of Republican power in the state of California, going back as far as Duke Majan to Gray Davis finally getting in there. So Gray gets 4 years, gets reelected, get recalled, and they gave us the Terminator, right? So in terms of like who it was stabbing us, there's a question about who was doing the stabbing.
Right.
Because the people who stopped the bleeding aren't necessarily the people who were doing the stabbing.
Right.
And so I think that's the difference for me in my perspective of understanding that I want the person willing to do the most for the people who are still in the situations that I was in.
Yeah, I mean, I think like at the end of the day, like if there's ever humans in our society that get treated like second-class citizens, it's people who are incarcerated. It's felons. Yeah. Even when they get out, they got to wear that. It's like a scarlet letter they got to wear every time they go do a fucking job interview. And now, former president is an ex-felon.
Ain't that something?
Ain't that shit crazy?
Ain't that crazy?
Whether or not you think he should be is a whole other discussion.
Right.
But technically he is.
They're running for the biggest job in the United States of America, in the world. The biggest job in the world, but somebody with a felony that want to go work.
Yeah, and look, I'd like to point out, like, I don't think he should be a felon. I think they went after him, like, for sure. But he's still a felon.
He's a felon.
So it's like, now it's like, hey guys, like we should really, because I just feel like putting that shit on. I mean, obviously, if you own a business and you want to do your own background check before you hire somebody, that's on you. But like, I feel like that box that you got to check on the application, have you ever been convicted of a felony, is just as soon as you hit yes, you're fucked. You're not getting the job.
And now Gavin Newsom gets rid of that too for us. I think, man.
Well, Gavin Newsom's a fucking chameleon, bro.
Yes.
He's a fucking lizard person for sure. He will do whatever he has to do to hold on to that power.
Yeah.
He's a wild boy, man. That Gavin's a wild boy.
Hey, man, it's an interesting world we live in.
For sure.
I think that, man, a lot of people have to make decisions based on what they think is going to have the best outcome for as many people
as possible.
That's fair. That's really what it comes down to.
That's
fair.
I
want people in my former circumstances to have a legitimate opportunity to get their lives together,
rehabilitate, get out, be productive,
We're
have
the only developed country left in the world that actually takes citizenship from people.
Like, you can't vote anymore.
Right, not being able to vote, your rights against search and seizure, your constitutional rights actually get taken from you, and you essentially almost can't get them back.
No, it's
Whereas
crazy.
Anywhere, if you go to Germany outpacing us in this regard.
Right.
You get in trouble, you get incarcerated, you get rehabilitated, and they reintegrate you into society. So you're fully restored. And they're saying, go be a member of society, integrate, participate in the game, play the game. We're going to teach you what the game is. Maybe you didn't know. This is what the game is. We get education. You got a job. Maybe you build a business. That's your choice. But these are the options. And you go and integrate and get your money and take care of your family and mind your business. And that's it. And our country, we get you into our system because our criminal justice system was created to replace a loss of economic power. They got rid of slavery, which was not abolished. It was modified. And slavery is hereby abolished, ironically, in these United States of America, except it's punishment for those duly convicted of a crime. Right. Not felony, not misdemeanor.
No, it's just been rebranded for sure.
Yeah, they changed slavery from working in a field, and now singing Negro hymns and spirituals to any of you poor motherfuckers. You wanted to fight over this? You motherfuckers wanted to fight about it? You wanted some of this? Then any of you poor motherfuckers can come on over there, go commit a crime. And I'm going to give you 50 million reasons to do it, too, because you're hungry out here, and this shit is expensive.
It's crazy.
Right now, and you can't get a job. Vagrancy laws. This machine was literally created to supplement or to replace money that America was losing as a result of the so-called abolition of slavery. They created another labor force to go do work. There was no proud man that wanted to go. Your poorest white man was too proud to go pick cotton.
Right.
You're not picking no fucking cotton. What the fuck you think this is? So who's going to do it? Right? So we got to put you motherfuckers back in jail. We got to put you in jail, and now I can put you back in the field.
Shit's crazy.
It's simple.
Well, listen, man, your album is out. Like I said, by the time people watch this, it'll be out. So go get the album. I'm sure tour's coming soon because that's how you guys do over at Strange. The tour's always...
Yeah. We about to run around. It's going to be a whole lot of activities. A Sin in Heaven... available everywhere. Strange music curated on behalf of Blockstar, N9ne on there, Bleez on there, Ali Oxenfree dropping. That's out. It should be out already. Yes, all this shit will be tonight, really, and tomorrow morning. So yeah, man, Ali Oxenfree, myself, N9ne, N9ne, Bleez. I hope y'all enjoying that. A Sin in Heaven is a phenomenal album. I really wanted motherfuckers like you to be proud of it. I want Bo to like it. I want Mozzy to like it. I want niggas to like it. I want Rakim to like it. I want Tech. I know Tech likes it. I made an album. I made some hip hop music.
That's dope.
And we doing what we doing on there.
Well, go get it. I appreciate the sit down finally, man.
And it's dope.
X-rated. Boom.